Information is power, but in this world, it's usually just the thing that gets you killed faster. Our guy Zach is out in the woods, putting in overtime as the group's designated lumberjack because he made the mistake of mentioning he once went camping as a kid. Pro tip, never tell your new girlfriend's friends you're capable of manual labor, or you'll end up like Zach, swinging an axe while everyone else relaxes. He tosses a branch aside, realizing the firewood he's finding is basically garbage, which is a great metaphor for how this trip is going so far. Zach figures his dad probably just bought wood from a store, but hey, at least being alone in the woods means he doesn't have to listen to Hannah's friends. He lets out a heavy sigh, trying to find some peace and quiet before the social nightmare resumes. Being the new guy in a tight-knit group of friends is always awkward, especially when you can feel the judgment radiating off them. Speak of the devil, here's Tyler, Hannah's friend who is definitely 100% not into her, screaming about who set up the tent. David and Izzy pop out of the trailer, trying to calm Tyler down with the promise of vacation vibes and brownies. Tyler is having a full-blown meltdown because they got there late, and apparently, the schedule is more important than the scenery. Hannah, Zach's girlfriend, steps in with a smile, telling everyone it'll be fine because Zach is really good at this kind of stuff. Zach wipes the sweat from his face, looking like he'd rather be literally anywhere else, but he agrees to lend a hand anyway. He goes back to the grind, but Tyler isn't done being a headache, hovering nearby while Hannah brags about Zach's camping skills. Tyler decides that since Zach is so perfect at this, he should go back into the woods and get even more firewood. The axe head whistles through the air as Zach turns around, and for a second you can tell he's considering a different kind of firewood. The tension is thick enough to cut with that hatchet as Zach and Tyler stare each other down. Zach just smirks and agrees to go back out. He's a better man than me, because I would have accidentally dropped the wood on Tyler's toes. As Zach walks away, Tyler just glares at his back, probably salty that he doesn't look half as good in a red shirt. Tyler complains to Hannah that her boyfriend is way too intense, but she just laughs it off like it's a personality quirk. Zach disappears into the dense forest, leaving the drama behind for some actual work. He kneels down to gather more branches, unaware that the world as he knows it is about to expire its free trial. He decides he's got enough and should probably head back, thinking they don't need a mountain of wood for just one night. Suddenly, a low click echoes through the trees, and the ground starts glowing with a weird purple energy. Zach freezes, his eyes widening as he realizes that trees don't usually hum with the power of the cosmos. Before he can even drop his axe, the forest disappears, replaced by a massive swirling void of stars and galaxies. He's standing in the middle of literal space, looking around like he's just realized he's in the wrong genre of manhwa. A blue screen pops up with a ding, welcoming him to the multiverse and initiating a system he definitely didn't sign up for. Zach is understandably confused, wondering if the multiverse has a customer service line he can complain to. He thinks he's having a heat stroke, but the system keeps scanning Earth, grading it as low F-grade mass, which is cosmic code for totally pathetic. Because Earth is too small and weak, the system decides to merge it with other planets, randomize spawn points, and upgrade the wildlife. Zach watches in horror as the multiverse system activates, realizing that upgraded wildlife probably doesn't mean fluffier bunnies. He legitimately wonders if Izzy's brownies were laced with something illegal, because this is a very high-budget hallucination. He calls out for Hannah and the others, but his voice just gets swallowed by the infinite purple void. Another ding cuts him off, and you can tell the system is starting to have some technical difficulties. Zach senses something behind him, something big, something hungry, and something definitely not human. The system tries to spawn a herald, but then a massive red error screen pops up, saying the herald is occupying the same space as him. It tells him he has to roll for survival, which is a very polite way of saying gamble your life on a random number generator. Zach feels a hot, foul breath on his neck, and the atmosphere turns heavy with killing intent. He turns around and comes face to face with a massive red demonic wolf thing that looks like it eats planets for breakfast. The beast lets out a roar that probably shattered half the eardrums in the galaxy, and Zach realizes he's in serious trouble. The odds pop up, the monster gets a roll from 1 to 100,000, while Zach gets a 1 to 100. The system is basically laughing at him at this point. Zach stares at the numbers in disbelief, realizing the power gap is so wide he'd need a telescope to see the other side. The rule is simple: whoever rolls the lowest value gets eradicated from existence. No pressure, Zach. He curses under his breath, absolutely fuming at the fact that his life depends on a rigged game of cosmic Yahtzee. He tries to refuse the roll, but the system doesn't exactly have an opt-out button for its death matches. The system interprets his yelling as a command to roll, because apparently it has the listening skills of a distracted toddler. Zack panics as the numbers start spinning, his face turning pale as he realizes the clock is ticking on his existence. The slot machine of death starts whirring and the numbers fly by in a blur of blue light. He punches at the screen, screaming for it to stop, but you can't exactly punch a holographic system into submission. The numbers keep spinning, and Zack's heartbeat is probably moving faster than the dice at this point. One final ding echoes through the void, and the first set of numbers locks in. Zack rolls a 96. Out of 100, that's a miracle, but he knows that against a 100,000-point ceiling, it's still basically a death sentence. The beast growls, its own numbers starting to spin, and Zack accepts that he's about to become a footnote in cosmic history. The monster's numbers whirl, and Zack can only watch as his life flashes before his eyes. He thinks of his dad and all the times they went camping, regretting that he didn't even get to say a proper goodbye. He thinks of his little sister, Mackenzie, and how he was kind of a crappy older brother who spent too much time on games. The regret hits him hard. He realizes he wasted so much time being annoyed when he should have been present. He wonders if anyone at the camp has even noticed he's gone yet, or if they're still arguing about the tent. The memory of the campsite feels like a dream from a different lifetime, peaceful and mundane. Zack looks up at the monster, a sudden surge of defiance bubbling up in his chest. He refuses to die just because some damned dice roll decided he wasn't worth the effort. The numbers for the monster keep spinning, the whir sounding like a countdown to his execution. Zack grips his axe with everything he's got, his knuckles turning white as he prepares to go down swinging. He doesn't care about the probability or the math. He's done playing by the system's rules. He stares death in the eye and demands just one chance to prove he belongs in this new world. Just one chance to take his fate back into his own hands. Another ding rings out, the finality of it vibrating through the void. The monster rolls a 91. Zack stands there, stunned, processing the fact that he actually won a 1 in 1,000 gamble. The beast lets out one last confused roar as the system marks it for eradication. The monster is torn apart by white light, literally deleted from reality because it couldn't roll higher than a 91. Talk about a bad day at the office. The energy from the monster's death surges into Zack, a swirling vortex of purple power that looks incredibly painful. He screams as the raw power forced into his body, his veins glowing as he absorbs the experience of a creature thousands of times stronger than him. The system coolly notes that Zack continues to exist while the Herald is vanquished, moving back to its standard protocols like it didn't just witness a miracle. Zack starts leveling up so fast the screens are overlapping, he's basically speedrunning the tutorial before it even starts. He's dropped back into the forest, hitting the ground hard as the cosmic energy fades away. Episode 1. Welcome to the new world, Zack. Zack groans, slowly pushing himself up from the dirt, wondering if his brain just leaked out of his ears. He checks his body, half expecting to find a hole where the monster bit him, but he's surprisingly intact. He looks up and sees 2 suns in the sky and a massive pillar of light on the horizon. Yeah, we definitely aren't in Kansas anymore. The forest looks different too. More vibrant, more dangerous, and definitely more upgraded. He stands alone in a clearing, the silence of the woods feeling a lot more ominous than it did 10 minutes ago. The system screen lingers in the air, reminding him that Earth has been merged and the topography has been readjusted. Zack clutches his head, desperately hoping this is just a very vivid dream brought on by bad brownies. He starts walking, trying to find his way back to the camp and the people who actually make sense. He hears a rustle in the bushes and freezes, his instincts, which are now probably leveled up, screaming at him to move. He spots something through the leaves, his eyes narrowing as he focuses on a familiar shape. It's the trailer. He breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he's finally found his way back to reality. He runs toward the camp, calling out for his friends and ready to tell them the craziest story they've ever heard. He reaches the fire pit, but instead of his friends, he finds a cold, crunching silence. The chairs are knocked over, supplies are scattered, and a water bottle is leaking into the dirt. It looks like a crime scene. Zack's face pales as he realizes that whatever upgraded wildlife the system mentioned, it's already been here. He hears a crunching sound from behind the crates and turns to see a purple, muscular nightmare eating their supplies. The creature looks like a mutated panther with way too many spikes, and its eyes are glowing with a very "I'm going to eat you" energy. Zack doesn't hesitate. He swings his axe with a speed and power he didn't have 5 minutes ago. The monster lunges, its claws missing Zack's face by an inch as he dashes to the side. He grips the axe handle, feeling a surge of strength that feels almost alien in his own arms. The blade whistles through the air, catching the light as it arcs toward the beast. He slices through the creature with terrifying ease, blood spraying across his face as he delivers a lethal blow. The monster crashes into the ground, and Zack stares at his hands, wondering how he suddenly became a professional slayer. The blue screen from before flashes in his mind, the multiverse, the system. the whole welcome package. He looks at the dead monster at his feet, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. He remembers the giant red wolf and the killing intent that nearly paralyzed him. He remembers the dice roll and the sheer dumb luck that kept him from being deleted. Zach grips his wounded shoulder, the pain proving that this isn't a dream and there's no wake-up button. He calls out for his friends one more time, his voice cracking with desperation as he scans the empty camp. He realizes he's completely alone in a forest that's now filled with things that want to turn him into a snack. Another monster growls from the shadows, and Zach realizes that the one he just killed was just the warm-up act. The beast slams into the ground where he was just standing, and Zach knows he has to find a better plan than standing still and screaming. He notes that while the monsters are fast, they can't turn worth a damn once they get moving. Smart boy. He spots something in the distance, a flicker of an idea forming in his head. He realizes he can use the environment to his advantage if he can just stay alive long enough to reach it. He baits the monster, shouting and waving his arms to get its attention before dashing away into the trees. The monster falls for it, its predatory instincts overriding any sense of caution. Zach leads the beast on a high-stakes chase through the camp, his blood pumping and his vision sharper than ever. He vaults over a fallen log, moving with a grace that would have made his high school PE teacher weep with joy. The monster is right on his heels, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground. It lunges again and again, but Zach is always just one step ahead, dancing around the danger. He slides under a low branch, the monster crashing through the foliage behind him like a runaway freight train. Zach stops to catch his breath, his hands stained with blood as he leans against the trailer for support. He stands his ground near a rocky outcrop, his axe ready and his eyes fixed on the approaching threat. The ground thumps with each stride of the beast, the sound echoing the pounding in Zach's chest. His hands are shaking, but he realizes it isn't fear. It's the raw, unadulterated thrill of the fight. It's rage. Rage at the system, rage at the monsters, and rage at the fact that his world was taken away without his permission. He lets out a defiant roar, practically inviting the monster to come and try its luck. The beast charges, a blur of purple muscle and gnashing teeth. Zach dodges at the last possible second, and the monster slams into the rocks with the force of a car crash. The creature thrashes, stunned by the impact, and Zach sees his opening. The monster lets out a pained roar, realizing too late that it just fell into a very simple trap. Zach brings the axe down with everything he's got, the blade glowing with the intent to end this. He buries the steel deep into the monster's neck, the shook sound signaling the end of the chase. The bone cracks under the pressure, and the monster's life force drains into the forest floor. Zach compares this fight to the odds he already faced against the Herald and realizes these things are basically level 1 slimes in comparison. The beast lets out one final, gurgling roar before going still. "You're nothing," Zach mutters, his eyes glowing with a cold blue light as he stands over his kill. He doesn't stop there, he continues to hack and slash, making sure the thing is well and truly dead. The blood sprays everywhere, but Zach doesn't even flinch. He's officially entered the protagonist zone. He delivers one final decisive blow that nearly splits the creature in two. He stands there, covered in gore, the ghost of the red wolf appearing behind him as a reminder of the power he now carries. The system rewards him with 100 Nexus coins because apparently monster hunting is a lucrative business. Zach collapses next to the carcass, breathing hard as the adrenaline finally starts to wear off. He leaves a bloody handprint on a nearby tree as he stumbles back toward the trailer, his body screaming for rest. He follows the trail of blood and debris, his mind racing with questions about where his friends could be. He calls out for Hannah one last time, but the only answer is the rustling of the leaves in the wind. His boots are stained red, marking his first steps into a world that no longer has a place for the normal Zachary Atwood. He reaches the trailer and leans against the door, his strength failing him as he realizes he needs to leave this place. He reaches for the handle with a bloody hand, desperate for the safety of the interior. He slumps against the door, his eyes closing as he mutters that they need to go home. But as the camera pans out, we see the true scale of the disaster. Zach, alone, surrounded by blood and the remains of his old life. Home is a word that doesn't mean much anymore when the entire planet has been rewritten by a cosmic algorithm. The campsite looks like a tiny, fragile island in a sea of ancient, dangerous trees. And as the moon rises over this new Earth, the real story finally begins. Zach wakes up with the sun in his eyes and the kind of headache you usually only get after a 12-hour gaming binge without water. The light is way too bright, and there are two suns in the sky, which is a great way to start any morning. He rubs his face, only to find it's caked in dried blood and dirt. Delightful. He stares at his hands, remembering the absolute bloodbath from the night before, and wondering if he's still dreaming. He checks his phone, and it says 8:47 a.m., May 7th. He realized he's been out cold for 3 whole days. His eyes go wide as the math finally hits him. 3 days of his life, just gone. He's been asleep for 3 days, and the world hasn't stopped turning into a chaotic nightmare while he was napping. He scans the trailer, but it's empty. His friends didn't even take their stuff, which is usually a sign that they didn't leave by choice. He starts bandaging himself up, realizing he needs to be realistic. If they haven't come back by now, they probably aren't coming back at all. He steps out of the trailer, looking at the forest and wondering what kind of cosmic prank he's currently the punchline of. He notices his wounds have already healed significantly, which is a nice perk of being level 16, I guess. By all rights, he should be dead, but here he is, breathing, healing, and probably the only human left in this sector. He's alone in the woods with no phone service, which is basically the beginning of every horror movie ever made. The car is still there, but with a dead battery, it's just a very expensive blue paperweight. Zach climbs a tree to get a better look at the landscape, his movements feeling way more fluid and powerful than before. He remembers the monster and realizes that if there's one, there are probably 1,000 more just waiting for him to slip up. He wonders if this is an alien invasion or if the universe just decided Earth needed a very aggressive makeover. Whatever it is, Zach's done being the victim. His face says he's ready to start taking names. He thinks of his dad and the memories they made, wondering if the rest of the planet is in the same mess as he is. He thinks of his sister, Mackenzie, and the urge to get home becomes a physical ache in his chest. He's determined to get back, even if he has to walk across the entire upgraded planet to do it. He grabs a branch and hauls himself up, his grip as solid as the steel of his axe. But then the doubt hits him. What if there isn't even a home to return to? What if home is just a smoking crater now? He reaches the top and sees a massive mountain range and a red beam of light shooting into the clouds. And then he sees the ocean. It's endless. He realizes he's stuck on a massive island with no way off. He curses the system, his teeth gritted in pure, unadulterated fury at whatever stole his world from him. He screams at the sky, challenging the system to give him answers or at least a map that makes sense. The system responds with a ding, giving him the title Born for Carnage for being the first human to kill a monster. 10% stat boost? I'll take it. The notifications start piling up. Ultimate Reaper, Luck of the Draw, Slayer of Leviathans. Zach is officially the most overleveled person on the planet. He reaches level 10 and gets even more stat points. It's like the universe is trying to apologize for nearly deleting him. He pulls up his status screen, his face lit by the blue holographic glow. Zachary Atwood. Level 16. Race, human. Stats are looking spicy, and he's even got some Nexus coins to spend. He realizes the world has literally turned into a video game, which would be cool if it didn't involve people being eaten. He wonders if his level is so high because of that first dice roll against the Herald. Apparently, skipping the tutorial pays off. He notes that most of his power comes from his titles, which is basically the system saying, you did something cool, here's some free points. He checks his active quests, reach level 25, kill 4 Heralds, and protect an outpost. Sounds like a busy week. He guesses the red beam is the incursion mentioned in the quest, and it looks like a very bad place to go for a picnic. The beam is massive, dominating the horizon and reminding him that the real fight is just beginning. He wonders what the hell an outpost is, and right on cue, the system asks if he wants to create one. He figures having a base is better than sleeping in a trailer that's basically a giant tin of human snacks for monsters. It couldn't be worse than his current situation, so he decides to go for it. Fine. Yes. Make the outpost, he grumbles, and the world starts glowing again. A massive blue screen announces that he's successfully created an outpost, but nothing seems to have changed. Suddenly, a floating purple eyeball with a tail pops out of nowhere and asks him what he thinks he's doing. Zach nearly jumps out of his skin, reaching for his axe as he stares at the most ridiculous thing he's seen all day. He realizes the eyeball isn't human, which is a very astute observation for someone who just woke up from a 3-day coma. The eyeball says they're both disappointed, which is a pretty high level of sass for something without a mouth. A giant snake suddenly lunges from the trees, and Zach has to scramble to keep his balance. The snake is huge, and its eyes are locked onto Zach like he's a particularly tasty burrito. Zach grabs the snake's body, struggling to keep it from wrapping around his neck. He curses himself for letting his guard down for even a second in this upgraded forest. The snake hisses in his face, and Zach realizes that even the small fry in this world are trying to kill him. He wrestles with the beast, his muscles bulging as he fights against the constricting coils. He reminds himself that even if it looks like a game, the pain is very, very real. If he wants to get stronger and find his family, he has to start taking risks and stop being the hunted. He grabs the snake by the head, his fingers digging into its scaly skin. "I refuse to die here," he roars, slamming the snake's head into a tree with enough force to shatter wood. The tree cracks under the impact, and the snake's skull probably looks like a jigsaw puzzle now. Zach keeps slamming it, over and over, making sure this overgrown garden hose never bothers him again. He He lets out his frustration on the beast, his face a mask of pure determination. He realizes the system only rewards the killers and the hunters. Being nice just gets you turned into fertilizer. In this new world, power is everything, and Zack is starting to realize he kind of likes having it. He vows to become the strongest person in this multiverse, if only to make the system regret ever picking on Earth. The snake lets out one last hiss before going limp, and Zack drops it like it's trash. The floating eyeball Abby just watches the whole thing, looking completely unimpressed. Abby notes that humans usually don't stand a chance starting out in a place like this, which is a great confidence booster. He mocks Zack for choosing a tree as his outpost, wondering if he was planning on building a very aggressive treehouse. Abby explains that he's assisted countless races across the multiverse, and humans have always been notoriously average. He's got a very punchable eye, and you can tell Zack is considering testing the no-mouth theory with his fist. Abby keeps talking about how stupid the treehouse idea is until a sudden sound cuts him off. A series of hacks ring out through the forest, and Abby looks around in confusion. Zack is already back at it, hacking through the snake's remains with a terrifying focus. Abby stares at him, his single eye widening as he realizes there might be something different about this human. Zack stands in a pool of monster blood, breathing hard and looking like a man who's finally found his purpose. He grips his axe, his face splattered with gore, and asks the eyeball if it's done complaining yet. Abby admits that he might have been wrong in his initial assessment and that Zack might have some merit after all. Zack just glares at him, clearly not interested in the opinion of a floating organ. The eyeball introduces himself as Vethabarak, but says he can go by Abby, as if they're suddenly best friends. Zack gives his name, but he's more interested in how a mouthless eyeball is talking and what assisting actually means. Abby calls him a rube for missing the tutorial, proving that he's going to be a joy to have around. Zack snaps back, pointing out that the stupid system never sent him to a tutorial and just left him to die 3 days ago. Abby blinks, his cosmic eye processing this new information with actual surprise. He realizes the world was only initiated 3 days ago, and he's shocked that Zack has survived this long on his own. He taps his tail against his head, his tone shifting from mockery to genuine interest. He realizes he's been assigned to a defier, which apparently means he finally got some good karma. Lucky you, Abby. Abby explains that the world has been integrated into the multiverse, a system that's existed for billions of years. It's a massive cosmic machine that consumes planets and spits out survivors. Most humans were moved to tutorial towns to learn how not to die, which explains where Zack's friends went. Zack asks if his family is safe, and Abby says, "for now," which is about as reassuring as a shark telling you it's on a diet. He explains that some people have a deficiency and can't absorb cosmic energy, which is basically a death sentence in this world. Those people die sooner or later, becoming the low-tier casualties of the system's grand design. A mortal that can't cultivate has zero chance against the upgraded dangers the system has unleashed. Zack asks what a defier is, his mind racing with everything he's hearing. He asks if he's destined to die too, and you can see the fire in his eyes. He's not going out without a fight. Abby explains that a defier is someone who gains power far beyond what's expected, basically a cosmic underdog. The system expects you to die, but you survive anyway. You defy fate, you defy the odds, and you defy the system itself. It's a position of strength, but Zack's situation is extreme even for a defier. No pressure, kid. Zack points out that being nearly killed by a dice roll doesn't feel like a fantastic opportunity, but Abby says the system sees it differently. In the grand scheme of the multiverse, the system is the only voice that truly matters. Its will is absolute, and right now it's watching Zack very closely. Abby warns him that the system hates cowards and rewards those who are willing to bleed for power. If he fails or gives up, the punishment will be swift and probably involve a lot less breathing. Zack realizes he doesn't even have a choice. He has to kill the demons and complete the quests, or he's toast. "Don't disappoint it," Abby says, floating around him like a very annoying guardian angel. Abby glances away, sensing something on the horizon that even he finds concerning. He tells Zack he should try to finish the quest in 1 month instead of 3, because why not add more stress to the situation? Suddenly, Abby lets out a scream as the system forces him back into a portal. Apparently, even cosmic eyeballs have a curfew. He blinks out of existence, leaving Zack standing alone in the middle of the woods once again. A screen pops up saying the administrator was returned early by system, which is basically the multiverse version of a hang-up. Zack is left with nothing but a headache and a deadline he's definitely not ready for. 1 month? He mutters, staring at the red beam and realizing the clock is officially ticking. Meanwhile, far away in a demon realm, a massive party is in full swing, filled with fancy clothes and even fancier demons. We see a man standing on a balcony, overlooking the chatter and looking like he'd rather be doing literally anything else. This is Ogros. He's got purple hair, horns, and a look of pure boredom that says he's seen too many of these parties. Aaliyah, a red-haired demon in a stunning dress, approaches him and points out that he doesn't look very happy. She tells him to smile because it's a celebration, but Ogros isn't in a partying mood. It turns out his grandfather just named him Incursion General, an honor most demons would kill to have. Other demons are watching them, whispering and judging, as is tradition in any evil demon clan. Ogros's eyes glow blue as he grits his teeth, clearly not seeing this honor as anything other than a death sentence or a chore. A white-haired demon knight stands nearby, looking stern and probably thinking about all the ways he could kill Ogros. Alea mocks him, saying he'll have to fight instead of spending all his time at brothels. Classic Ogros. Ogros sips his purple wine and says he's not going to fight, he's going to let the fools believe they're in control. Suddenly, a blonde demon across the room coughs up blood and collapses. Someone clearly didn't like the vintage. Chaos erupts as people scream and demand to know who did this. Welcome to Demon Politics, where the hors d'oeuvres are poisoned. A hand lies in a pool of purple blood, a grim reminder that in this world, even the winners aren't safe. Ogros watches the madness from above. Looking down at the world with a cynical smile, he notes that people will eventually strangle themselves with the strings they think they pull. Deep, Ogros. Very deep. Peace and quiet are officially extinct on this planet, replaced by the sounds of things trying to eat you. A massive purple beast stops by the river for a drink, completely unaware that it's about to become a statistic. This is a Barghest, the starter mob of the apocalypse, and it's looking a lot more muscular than the local stray dogs back home. A glowing blue butterfly lands on its nose, which is a very Disney moment right before things get very HBO. The butterfly is actually a parasite, because in the multiverse, even the bugs have an agenda. The Barghest's ear twitches, it's realized that the scenery behind it just got a lot more protagonist-shaped. It turns around, snarling, ready to defend its watering hole from whatever dared to sneak up on it. Zack is standing right there, looking like he's finally gotten used to the blood-on-the-face aesthetic. He brings the axe down with a vertical strike that would make a lumberjack weep with pride, splitting the beast into two very distinct pieces. The Barghest doesn't even have time to finish its roar before it's demoted to a corpse. The system pings him with a new title, Demon Slayer. It's a 3% stat boost, which isn't much, but hey, free stuff is free stuff. Zack takes a breather by the river, finally feeling like he's not the bottom of the food chain anymore. He smirks, realizing the system is stingy with levels, but at least he gets to play God with his stat points now. He's sitting on 32 free stats. It's like having a winning lottery ticket and being too afraid to cash it in. He wonders if he should save them, but then remembers the snake fight and realizes saving for a rainy day doesn't work when it's currently a monsoon of monsters. In this world, being balanced is just a fancy word for being dead, so he needs to pick the stats that keep him breathing now. He pulls up the holographic interface, tapping away at his future like he's ordering takeout. He dumps points into strength and vitality, doubling down on the hit hard and don't die strategy. It's simple, but effective. The red beam of the incursion looms in the distance, a constant reminder that he's on a very short leash. He lays back in the dirt, counting down the days and wondering if Abby's advice to hurry was a warning or just her being a jerk. There has to be a reason she told him to finish a 3-month quest in 30 days. Abby was basically begging the system for a mute button, and her desperation was the only thing Zack actually trusted. If the system punished her just for hinting at it, then the stakes are way higher than just some XP. Maybe there's a secret prize for speedrunning the apocalypse, or maybe after 1 month the difficulty setting goes from hard to impossible. He watches the blue butterfly drift over the water, a tiny piece of beauty in a world that's mostly teeth and claws. One thing is for sure, his life is about to get a whole lot more complicated, and he's only got an axe to solve it. The river flows on, indifferent to the fact that the guy on the bank is currently Earth's last best hope. Zack splashes some water on his face, trying to wash away the fatigue. He's got a head start while everyone else is in the tutorial, and he can't waste it. He hoists the axe over his shoulder with a shunk, looking like he's ready to clear the entire forest if that's what it takes. The butterfly lands on the dead beast, moving on to the next meal while Zack gets back to work. Night falls on the campsite, and the trailer is starting to look more like a bunker than a vacation spot. He's got some monster meat sizzling over the fire. It probably tastes like regret and purple Gatorade, but calories are calories. He scrolls through his titles, realizing he's basically a collector of first-place trophies in the Olympics of Carnage. Born for Carnage and Ultimate Reaper are doing a lot of heavy lifting for his stats right now. He chows down on his steak, but he's annoyed that creating his outpost didn't give him a first-to-house bonus. That means someone else out there is already building bases, which is a terrifying thought if they aren't on his team. If a simple snake can evolve into a boss fight in a week, who knows how strong the other glitched humans are getting. He imagines some office worker turning into a buff superhero just by clicking a few buttons, and it makes him feel a lot less special. The system code flickers in the firelight, a digital ghost haunting the ruins of the old world. He knows he needs something from the outpost shop to give him an edge, either a weapon or a way to find his family. Everything is expensive though. Apparently the multiverse has a very high cost of living. He stops mid-bite, his eyes locking onto a specific item in the shop menu, a teleporter. It's the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. He gulps, the realization of what that could mean for him and his family hitting him like a physical blow. He could bring Hannah and Mackenzie here, or better yet, get off this death trap island and find them himself. Then, he sees the price tag, 10 million Nexus coins. He looks like he just got hit in the face with a 10-ton weight. That's a lot of dead demon dogs. He'd have to kill every beast on the planet just to afford the install fee. He realizes he's not going to grind his way to 10 million, he needs a shortcut, and that quest is the only thing offering a unique building reward. The rewards for Incursion Master are insane, upgrading his outpost to a town and becoming a lord. That's how he gets the teleporter. He decides he can't be a hoarder. He has to spend his current coins to make sure he survives long enough to see that reward. He needs power, and he needs it now, even if it means emptying his digital wallet. He tears into the meat with a renewed ferocity, his mind made up. He buys a skill called Eye of Discernment. It costs 3,000 coins, but knowing what you're fighting is usually better than just swinging blindly. His eye glows with a digital HUD, the cosmic energy burning through his socket as the skill integrates. He clutches his face, the pain of the install proving that being a gamer in real life is a lot more painful than it looks on a monitor. The second item he buys is the F-grade mother-daughter small-scale gathering array. Yeah, the system really needs a better naming department. It's a staff and a necklace combo that looks like it belongs in a high fantasy museum. The mother staff pulls energy from the air, and the daughter necklace feeds it directly into Zach. It's basically a portable charger for his soul. He meditates with the staff, feeling the cosmic energy trickle into him like a slow IV drip. He realizes this is going to take too long. He's not the type to sit around and cultivate while the world burns. He grabs his axe, looking like he's ready to commit several various crimes against the local demon population. From then on, Zach becomes the ultimate camper, not the fun kind, the kind that hides in trees and drops on you with an axe. When he catches them by surprise, it's a slaughter. When he doesn't, it's a desperate struggle for his life. He becomes a tracker, learning to read the forest floor like a book written in dirt and blood. He practices his swings, refining the raw power of his stats into something actually useful. Clang. He blocks a lunge, his reflexes becoming sharp enough to catch flies, if the flies were the size of a golden retriever. He uses his new eye and realizes these dogs are called barghists. Finally, he knows what name to put on the gravestones. He sets up supply caches all over the island, because being a lumberjack hero involves a lot of logistics. He hunts, he hauls, and he repeats the cycle until the forest starts to feel like his backyard. He bleeds for every scrap of XP, his body becoming a map of scars and survival. Each level comes slower now, the grind becoming a slog as the barghists start offering less and less of a challenge. But his power is through the roof. He doesn't see the demons as threats anymore, he sees them as walking delivery services for stats. He stands in a pile of corpses, looking like the final boss of someone else's nightmare. Level 23. He's close to his goal, but the deadline is breathing down his neck. His status screen is looking massive, strength is at 59, which is basically unlimited bench press territory. 5 days left. The first month is ending, and the real game is about to begin. Meanwhile, in a much fancier room, someone is relaxing while the world prepares to end. Rydell, a demon knight who actually knows how to stand up straight, enters the room to find his boss being lazy. Ogros is mid-hiccup, wine glass in hand, looking like he's currently winning the least productive general award. Rydell points out that Ogros would know what's going on if he actually read the reports instead of using them as coasters. Ogros tries to play it off as delegation, because lazy is a bad word for a demon general. Rydell sniffs the air, realizing his boss is legitimately drunk on the job. Ogros groans, complaining that there's nothing to do until the portal finishes forming. The guy has the attention span of a goldfish. Rydell slides a paper over with a grin that says, "I'm about to rob you blind while you're hammered." He wants Ogros to sign his cousin into a high-ranking position, and Ogros is too drunk to care about nepotism. Rydell walks away with the signature, looking like the cat that just ate the canary in the birdhouse. Ogros toasts his loyal second-in-command, completely oblivious to the fact that Rydell is basically running the show now. The door's shut, and Ogros is back to his solitude and his wine. A few more weeks and he's free from this place, which for a demon means going to a new world to kill things. Back on Earth, Zack is moving through the shadows, his movements silent and practiced. He touches the ground, sensing the vibrations of something much bigger than a barghest. He brushes aside some leaves, his eyes narrowing as he spots a new challenger. It's a massive beast, snoofing around the camp and looking for anything that smells like human. Zack stays downwind, his axe ready for a fight that he knows won't be as easy as the others. The beast pauses, sensing something, its red eyes glowing with an intelligence that the other dogs lacked. Suddenly, it turns, and Zack realizes that downwind doesn't mean much to a high-level predator. The beast lunges with a speed that blurs the air, its claws tearing through the undergrowth. Zack huffs, barely rolling out of the way as the monster slams into the tree he was just behind. This thing is a nightmare. Too many heads, too many teeth, and a hunger that seems personal. It crunches through the debris, sniffing the air for Zack's fear, but all it's going to find is an axe. It lets out a roar that sounds like a chainsaw in a blender, charging straight at our boy. Zack sees its eye, a single, focused point of malice, and realizes he can't win this by just swinging hard. Whoosh. He narrowly dodges a strike that would have turned his ribcage into a xylophone. The beast leaves massive gouges in the dirt, its power level clearly being way beyond anything Zack has faced since the Herald. Zack dashes away, his mind racing. Is this a Herald? Is this the thing he's supposed to kill to save his sector? Its claws are the size of his arm, which is a very discouraging design choice by the system. He realizes he needs to get back to the campsite. Fighting this thing in the open woods is a one-way trip to a funeral. He reaches the clearing, but he's not alone. He stops in his tracks, his heart skipping a beat. Someone, or something, is talking. The speech bubbles are filled with a language that looks like a glitch in the Matrix. He spots a small demonic imp roasting meat over his fire pit. Talk about a rude house guest. Zack peeks around a tree, wondering if the imp is part of a scouting party. The imp pokes the meat, chatting away to its red wolf companion like they're at a Sunday barbecue. Zack wonders if they were sent to find him, or if they just liked the lived-in feel of his camp. He activates his Eye of Discernment, his vision turning into a tactical readout. The small one is an imp, and the red wolf is a gwilgi. Both are part of Clan Azrezak, the invaders. Shit. The imp stops mid-sentence and looks straight at Zack. Apparently, the discernment skill has a very loud ping. The imp lets out a shriek and summons a ball of purple fire, its face twisting into a malicious grin. Zack lunges forward as the fire erupts, the night turning into a purple nightmare. Zack curses as the purple fire slams into his axe, the heat from the blast singeing his eyebrows. He grunts under the pressure, the imp's magic being a lot more potent than its tiny body suggested. His eyes are filled with a desperate rage. He spent weeks preparing for this, and he's not losing to a winged toddler with a fire habit. The gwilgi wolf lunges from the side, its jaws snapping shut on the air where Zack's neck used to be. It slams into him, knocking him to the ground as they tumble through the campsite in a blur of red fur and red flannel. The wolf snarled, its teeth clamping onto the handle of Zack's axe, trying to disarm him before he can counter. "Get the hell off me!" Zack roars, using his high strength to literally bench press the demonic wolf into the dirt. He swats at a stray ember of purple fire, realizing this isn't normal heat. It barely grazed his shoulder, but the wound is already turning black and smoking. It feels like the fire burned his soul instead of just his skin, a spiritual heartburn that he definitely didn't want. The imp cackles, charging up another fireball while it hovers in the air, looking way too smug for its own good. The wolf snaps the handle of Zack's axe, the wood splintering like a toothpick under its demonic bite. 2 against 1, a broken weapon, and soul-burning fire. It's a situation that would make most people give up and go home, but home is currently a wasteland. Zack smirks, a wild look in his eyes. If he can't beat these odds, then that 1,000 to 1 dice roll was a waste of a miracle. He dashes forward, choosing to ignore the wolf for a second to take out the caster. The imp shrieks, firing off 3 fireballs in quick succession like a demonic machine gun. Zack weaves through the blasts, his movements a blur of desperate grace as the purple fire explodes behind him. The wolf leaps for his back, its claws outstretched and glowing with the same purple energy. Wham! Zack catches the wolf in midair, grappling the beast with a strength that defies his human frame. Rah! He stabs at the wolf with the broken, jagged end of his axe handle, turning his trash into a lethal weapon. They slam into the ground together, the wolf's blood staining Zack's shirt an even darker shade of red. Zack doesn't let up, delivering a flurry of punches that sound like wet bags of sand hitting a wall. He lets out a roar, his focus entirely on ending the wolf before the imp can aim its next shot. Crunch. A final, heavy blow to the wolf's snout ends its part in the play. Zack stands up, his chest heaving, his eyes glowing with a terrifying intensity as he turns back to the imp. The imp's grin disappears, replaced by a look of dawning realization that it picked the wrong human to mess with. Boom. The imp lets out a final, desperate burst of energy, a purple explosion that consumes the entire clearing. Zack is thrown back, his body feeling like it's being torn apart by 1,000 tiny needles of spirit fire. He thinks of the 96 he rolled, wondering if his luck finally just ran out in the most painful way possible. The fire whips around him, but instead of burning him to a crisp, something starts to shift in his perception. He feels the energy moving, not just as a weapon, but as a fluid, living thing. Cosmic energy. He finally sees it for what it is. The stars above seem to pulse in sync with his heartbeat, the void of space opening up in his mind. It's the building block of everything, the glue that holds the multiverse together, and the fuel that powers every demon and god. Ever since the system arrived, he's been drowning in this stuff without even knowing how to swim. Since the very first kill, he's been absorbing it, hoarding it like a dragon with no idea how to spend its gold. It's been inside him all along, a dormant volcano waiting for a spark. The gathering array he bought didn't just give him energy, it taught him how to feel it flowing through his veins. The skills taught him how to use it, but they were just training wheels for the real thing. Now, it's up to him to learn how to control the storm. Tink. The necklace pulses with light, and the purple fire around him starts to bend to his will. Zack's eyes snap open, glowing with a golden light that looks like a miniature sun trapped in his skull. He grabs the Gwilgi's tail, which is currently glowing with residual energy, and his expression is purely, "You're in trouble now." The imp backs away, stuttering in its glitchy language, clearly asking why the prey is suddenly looking so hungry. It shrieks and fires everything it has, a desperate barrage of purple spirit fire that turns the forest into a disco from hell. Zack doesn't dodge, he swings the wolf's tail like a flail, the cosmic energy within him coating the weapon in a protective barrier. Whoosh. He clears the air with a single swing, the sheer pressure of his newfound power blowing the fireballs away like dandelion seeds. He closes the distance in a heartbeat, his face a mask of cold, calculated fury. A final strike, a spray of red, and the imp is officially cancelled. The monster's eye reflects its final moments, seeing a human who has finally figured out how to fight back. A massive explosion of energy marks the end of the fight, the shockwave flattening the bushes for 20 yards. Day 30. The final day of the first month. The campsite is quiet again, but the air feels charged with anticipation. The sound of scraping echoes through the clearing as Zack works on his gear. Splash. He dips his new weapon into the river, the steam rising as the hot metal, or whatever this cosmic stuff is, cools. The corpses of the imp and the wolf float in the water, a grim reminder that Zack is the only one who gets to walk away today. The water laps at the shore, washing away the blood as the two suns rise for the 30th time. Zack is sharpening the edge of his new axe handle, which he's made from a strange dark wood infused with the energy he's learned to channel. "That should do it," he mutters, testing the balance of a weapon that feels like an extension of his own arm. He's level 23. He didn't hit 25 or get a class, but he's not going to let a minor detail like system requirements slow him down. He wraps his hands in fresh bandages, looking like a man who has finished the prologue and is ready for chapter 1. The system rewards risks, and Zack is about to take the biggest one of his life. Time to go kill a second herald. He looks heroic, determined, and maybe just a little bit insane. Across the world, a hand rests on a balcony railing, the fingers tipped with black demonic claws. The armor is polished to a mirror finish, reflecting the purple sky of the demon realm. "It's been quite a busy month," Ogras says, looking surprisingly sober for once. Rydell stands next to him, his face a mask of professional indifference. "For some of us, yes." Ogras points out that this is just the beginning. Once the portal forms, they'll be on their own, cut off from the main clan. They look out over a massive army, thousands of demons, imps, and wolves, all gathered at the foot of a massive swirling portal. The red moon hangs over the demon castle, a bloody eye watching the invasion begin. A massive, one-eyed demon general leads the charge, his grin promising nothing but slaughter. "I can hardly wait. If you're going to pick a fight with a monster 3 times your level, you'd better have a very good health insurance policy or a very large axe." Zack lunges forward, his axe whistling through the air as the massive Herald Vull lets out a roar that probably broke windows in the next dimension. He tumbles through the dirt, barely avoiding a swipe that would have turned his spine into a collection of very small pebbles. He slides across the grass, his eyes locked on the beast, realizing that leveling up doesn't mean much if you're dead. He lets out a heavy huff, the realization sinking in that he's currently the underdog in a fight where the prize is not being eaten. Level 45. The number hangs over the herald like a neon sign saying run away, but Zack isn't exactly the running type. Suddenly, Zach's mind drifts back to a simpler time, a time when the only thing he had to worry about was catching a fish. His dad is sitting there in his favorite bucket hat, dropping some knowledge about how every animal has its own special cheat code for survival. Zach's eyes light up as a fish bites. Back then, this was the biggest win of his week. Yank. The rod bends, the simple struggle for life and death playing out in a peaceful pond. His dad sighs as the fish gets away, noting that fish are slippery. It's their thing. He points out that humans aren't the fastest or the strongest, but we're the only ones who use spears to solve our problems. He explains that we don't win through raw power, we win because we're the only ones smart enough to build a trap. Zach's dad smirks as he hooks a worm, a lesson in cunning that's about to save Zach's life 10 years later. Fast forward to 2 hours before the big fight, and Zach is putting those spear lessons to good use. He grunts as he hauls a massive bundle of sharpened logs, realizing his dad was right. Brains beat brawn every time. Shing. He sets up a literal mountain of spears hidden in the bushes. It's not elegant, but it's very effective at making holes in things. Back in the present, the herald lets out a bone-chilling roar, completely unaware it's about to run into a giant pincushion. Zach dashes away, luring the beast deeper into his trap, knowing his own strength is basically a rounding error compared to this thing. The herald's muscles ripple under its purple skin. It's basically a tank with teeth, and the gap between them is wider than a canyon. Whoosh. The monster lunges, and Zach knows that if even one of those claws connects, he's going to be a very flat memory. He weaves through the trees, his only plan being don't get hit, which is a solid plan until you run out of trees. Sluice. He channels his cosmic energy into his feet, his movements becoming a blur of desperation and gold sparks. The beast's claws tear through the air, missing Zach's head by the width of a paperclip. Ching! He delivers a quick strike, more to annoy the beast than to kill it, keeping its focus entirely on him. He realizes he can move the energy to specific parts of his body, turning his arm into a temporary shield. It's a cool trick, but it hurts like hell. The herald growls, its frustration mounting as the tiny human refuses to stay still and be digested. "Come on, this way," Zach shouts, playing the world's most dangerous game of follow the leader. The beast smashes through the undergrowth, its weight splintering ancient oaks like they were made of cardboard. Zach grits his teeth, knowing his energy reserves are bottoming out. He's a defier, not a battery with unlimited juice. He feels the beast's breath on his heels, the ground shaking with every thundering footstep. Crash! He slides under a log as the herald slams into the clearing, the trap finally within sight. The beast lets out a triumphant roar, thinking it's finally cornered its prey. Zach stops, his eyes glowing as he focuses every last drop of his energy for one final burst of speed. Fight. He pivots on his heel, the herald lunging with all its mass behind a killing strike. Zach swings his axe, not at the beast, but at the rope holding his trap in place. The air hums with tension as the logs are released, the gold energy from his arm flowing into the mechanism. Slam! The trap hits home, the sound of wood meeting demonic flesh echoing through the forest. The world goes white for a second as the impact forces a massive shockwave through the clearing. Meanwhile, in a place that looks significantly more evil lair, a purple portal hums with dark energy. A single figure walks away from the light, their shadow long and imposing against the stone floor. Step. Step. The armor clinks with a rhythmic precision that says, "I am here to ruin someone's day." Ogress walks into the courtyard, asking where Rydell is with a tone that suggests he doesn't like waiting. A scarred demon soldier reports that Rydell is already through the portal, making Ogress the last one to the party. The soldier calls him General, but you can tell Ogress finds the title about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Ogress nods, his eyes narrowing as he looks at the soldiers who stayed behind. He tells them they won't be following Rydell because apparently Ogress is in the mood for a little internal restructuring. He smirks, his face twisted into a mask of cold, calculating malice. Disguises are for the weak. Back on Earth, the red beam of the incursion pulses, signaling the start of the true invasion. Zach is panting, leaning against a tree as he watches the dust settle in the clearing. His necklace pulses, a warning that he's pushing his body way past the check engine light. He looks at his arms, the energy glowing through his skin like he's about to burst from the inside out. Boom. The herald isn't dead yet. It's crawling out of the debris looking even angrier than before. Zach curses, realizing he's almost at the secondary trap he set up in the thicket. The beast lets out a mangled roar, its mane matted with blood and its red eyes burning with a need for revenge. Thump. Thump. The chase resumes, but both fighters are now running on pure spite and adrenaline. Zach's teeth are gritted so hard they might crack, he's almost at the finish line, and he's not letting this beast win. Shing! The secondary spears pop up from the ground, catching the herald in its blind spot. Dash! Zack leaps over the beast, his movements becoming fluid as he accepts the all-or-nothing stakes. Halt. Turn. Burst. He executes a perfect maneuver, the energy in his legs exploding as he launches himself into the air. The herald leaps to meet him, its jaws open wide, but Zack is already coming down with the axe. The beast snarls, its claws missing Zack by an inch as he delivers a downward strike with everything he has left. The beast's eye goes wide with a sudden, final realization. The prey just became the predator. Zack stands there, covered in dirt and monster blood, staring at the motionless pile of fur. Did it work? Stab. One final twitch from the monster, and then it goes silent. The herald is dead. The monster's eye fades, its life force being pulled back into the system. Level up. Level 25 reached. The energy surges through Zack, healing his wounds and refilling his soul. Quest complete. Class available for selection. He's finally done it. He's officially a somebody in this new world. A triumphant smirk crosses his face. I did it, he laughs, a wild, relief-filled sound, flipping the bird to the sky. You hear that, system? I killed another one! Roar. The forest erupts with sound. Apparently, killing the big boss just alerted every minor boss on the island. A pair of red eyes glare from the shadows. The victory lap is going to be a lot shorter than he hoped. Shit, Zack whispers, his smile disappearing faster than his stamina. Done. Dozens of eyes light up in the trees. It's not a retreat. It's an all-you-can-eat human buffet, and Zack is the only item on the menu. The forest is filled with the sound of approaching paws and hungry growls. Back at the demon castle, the towers loom against a purple sky, a monument to the war that's just beginning. One of the traders begs for mercy, but Ogros isn't exactly the forgive and forget type. Shink. Ogros delivers a lethal strike with a casual grace that's honestly insulting. The body slumps to the floor, another sacrifice to the internal politics of the demon clan. The courtyard is littered with bodies, Ogros has officially cleaned house, and the survivors are all on his side. Shink. A demon knight cleans her spear, asking how much longer they have to wear these foolish disguises. Until I say so, Namies, Ogros replies, looking like he's already bored with the carnage he just caused. A dying soldier reaches for him, but Ogros doesn't even look down. The guy has the empathy of a brick. Aaliyah, the red-haired demon, smirks as she asks if she has to stay hidden too. Ogros tells her, especially you, because he wants the locals to think they're fighting a bunch of disorganized monsters, not a calculated invasion. He explains that once the portal shuts, they're on their own. No grandfather, no clan, just them and their luck. Drop. He lets a head fall to the floor, his eyes glowing with a cold blue fire. So be it, Ilvire, he says, his voice like ice. He's done being the clan's puppet. He's tired of the backstabbing and the politics. He's ready to build something of his own on this new planet. He looks toward the portal, his face a mask of terrifying determination. The new world is no threat to me. He leads his inner circle toward the shimmering light. All that's left now is to meet the locals. Fwoosh. Zack is flying through the trees, except instead of a cool superhero flight, it's more of a running for your life kind of situation. Damn it! They're everywhere! He pants, the sound of 1,000 paws thumping in the dirt behind him. He curses Abby's name, wondering why the floating eyeball didn't mention that killing a herald would make him the most popular target on the island. His legs are burning, and his cosmic energy is basically a dry sponge after the fight with Vol. He realizes there's no way he can outrun a horde this size. They'll rip him apart before he even reaches the river. Leap. A Gwilgi wolf launches itself from a branch, its red fur a blur against the green leaves. Crack. Zack reacts on instinct, bringing his axe up to meet the beast in midair. He hits the ground and rolls, tapping into his reflexes to stay one step ahead of the snapping jaws. Huh? He notices a small flicker of energy entering his body. Killing the wolf just gave him a tiny refill. A wild grin spreads across his face. If he can keep killing them, he can keep moving. I don't need to outrun the horde, he mutters, his eyes glowing with a dark predatory light. He pivots, facing the approaching mass of monsters with a confidence that's borderline suicidal. A massive Barghest leads the pack, its red eyes fixed on Zack's throat. Zack unleashes a horizontal swing, the energy he just stole from the wolf cutting through the air like a hot knife. I just need to kill every last one of them. He stands in a circle of corpses, looking like the Grim Reaper's favorite intern. The red incursion beam lights up the night sky, a pillar of blood-red light marking the center of the invasion. In a nearby camp, a group of demon knights is gathered around a table. Ogros is missing, and Rydell is clearly enjoying the promotion. Rydell orders scouting parties to find out whatever it was that killed Herald Urukaz. He's a professional. He doesn't like loose ends. A demon named Kavorin nods, saying the scouts are already out. These guys are a lot more organized than the local wildlife. Rydell leans over the map, planning to upgrade their outpost to a city as fast as possible. They aren't just invading, they're moving in. Suddenly, a shout from the portal interrupts him. Someone is coming through, and it isn't the grocery delivery. A heavy armored boot steps out of the portal, the sound of metal on stone echoing through the camp. Ogros arrives with his personal guard, looking every bit the general he's supposed to be. The party is officially over. Rydell and Ogros share a look that's about as warm as a freezer burn. There's a new power dynamic in town, and it's going to be bloody. Back in the woods, Zack is leaning against a tree, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looks like he's been through a blender. His axe is chipped and stained with a month's worth of demon blood. It's a miracle it hasn't snapped in half yet. "I need to find a supply cache," he whispers, looking at the trail of bodies he's left across the forest floor. "There," he gasps, spotting a familiar mark on a distant tree. It's his treehouse cache. He spent weeks setting these up, and it's finally paying off. Wobble. Limp. He drags himself toward the trunk, his body screaming for a rest that he knows he can't afford. He pulls himself up a low branch, his fingers digging into the bark with a desperate strength. He hauls himself up, higher and higher, until the forest floor is just a dark, dangerous memory. He collapses onto a thick branch, hidden by the leaves and the darkness. He's safe for about 5 minutes. He closes his eyes, his head leaning back against the trunk as the adrenaline finally drains out of his system. Morning breaks, and the forest is filled with the sound of birds chirping, a normal sound that feels completely wrong in this world. Zack groans, opening one eye to find a bird staring at him like he's a particularly large worm. He realizes it's been over a month, and the world hasn't actually ended. It just changed its management. He looks out at the incursion beam, the red light cutting through the morning mist like a wound in the sky. Nah, who am I kidding? He wraps a fresh bandage around his arm, the bird flying away as he moves. It ended a month ago. Thud. He jumps down, noticing that his level 25 healing factor is doing most of the heavy lifting for his recovery. He's still not at 100%, but in this world, 50% is enough to keep moving if you're brave enough. He starts the long walk back to his main camp, eager to finally pick his class and see what class selection actually does. Crack. A branch breaks behind him. Zack freezes, his hand instantly reaching for the handle of his axe. Is someone tracking me? A demon knight walks out into the clearing, looking calm and collected. This isn't a mindless beast, it's a soldier. Zack stays hidden in the bushes, watching as the demon tracks the blood he left behind. Is that a goddamn demon? He whispers, the realization that he's not the only local hitting him hard. The demon kneels, examining a bloodstain on the grass. He's speaking a language Zack doesn't understand, but the intent is clear. He laughs, mentioning Ogros with a smirk. Apparently, he thinks he's found an easy target. Zack lunges from the bushes, his axe raised high above his head for a surprise strike. The demon turns, but he's a split second too slow to react to a level 25 human with a grudge. Thwack. The blow lands with the sound of a bowling ball hitting a watermelon. I'll take this, thank you. Zack stands over the unconscious demon, holding a high-quality demonic axe that's way better than his old one. Step. Step. He hauls the demon over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, heading back toward his interrogation site. He ties the demon to a tree, using several layers of heavy rope just to be safe. Let's see if you can talk. Splash. A bucket of cold water wakes the demon up, and he gasps for air as he realizes he's been captured. The demon panics, shouting for someone named Yahello, his eyes darting around the empty forest. Shing. Zack brings the blade of the new axe to the demon's throat, silencing him instantly. Hello, Zack says, looking down with a cold blue gaze. Human, the demon whispers, sounding terrified. Zack asks if the demon understands him, his voice low and dangerous. So you understand my words? The demon, Azun, is level 33 and belongs to Clan Azrezak. He just glares at Zack, refusing to say a word. Answer me! Zack slashes the air nearby, but the demon doesn't flinch. These guys are a lot tougher than they look. Shh. Suddenly, Azun's body starts glowing with a red, unstable light. He's not talking, he's charging. Burn! Human, the demon whispers, his eyes turning into pits of fire. Zack's eyes go wide. Shit! Explosion. A massive blast of energy consumes the clearing, throwing Zack back 20 yards into the dirt. Boom! The shockwave is so strong it flattens the grass and chars the nearby trees. Zack sits up in the smoking crater, coughing up ash and debris. The demon is gone, literally vaporized. He realizes the demon purposefully blew himself up just to make sure Zack didn't get any information. He stares at the blackened ground, the reality of his situation sinking in. These aren't just monsters, they're fanatics. Splat! He looks at his hand, covered in soot and demonic blood. Damn, he mutters, feeling more alone than ever. He looks toward the incursion beam, the weight of the war finally hitting him. These demons are going to be a pain. Imagine being the only guy left on Earth while the planet is being invaded by demons, and your only plan is to hide in the bushes. Zack stays perched in the trees, making sure the area is clear after the chaotic explosion from earlier. It's been hours since the demon scout decided to turn himself into a human firework, and thankfully no reinforcements have shown up to check the mess. He drops back down to his camp, feeling a bit salty that the scout blew up and took all his loot with him. Our guy is currently rocking a tattered cloak and bandages. He was really hoping the demon would drop some proper armor instead of just leaving a crater. He stares at the scorched earth, realizing that if he knew the demon was going to pull a self-destruct move, he would have looted his pockets first. Zack remembers the fanatical look in the demon's eyes, a guy who literally exploded just to spite a native. The boom was loud enough to wake up the neighbors, but luckily, all his neighbors are currently dead or in another dimension. The only silver lining is a new, shiny axe. His old one was basically a glorified butter knife at this point. Plus, the big milestone is finally here. He hit level 25, the magic number for a power-up. A small smirk plays on his face. Survival is starting to feel a little more like winning. But before he can open the gift box of superpowers, there's a bit of housekeeping to do. He needs to make sure his home base doesn't look like a welcome sign for the next demon patrol. Zack pulls up his shop interface and buys an F-grade illusion array, basically a high-tech do not disturb sign. A heavy crate thuds onto the dirt, looking way more expensive than anything Zack has owned in his life. He pulls out these glowing purple stakes, figuring the instructions are just pointy end goes in the dirt. He starts circling his camp, planting the stakes like he's trying to keep the world's worst vampires away. As he hammers the last one in, the air starts to hum with cosmic energy. Zack stands back, ready to see if his hard-earned coins were actually worth it or if he just bought some expensive glowing lawn ornaments. A massive dome of purple light erupts from the ground, shimmering with static electricity. The energy surges around him, making his hair stand on end as the system confirms the activation. From the outside, the camp starts to blur and fade, blending into the trees like it was never there. The air blinks once, and the entire campsite, car, trailer, and all disappears from sight. Zack is genuinely impressed. Everything inside the dome is now camouflaged from anyone passing by. He can finally breathe a bit easier, knowing he won't be ambushed while he's trying to read his status screen. With the perimeter secured, it's time for the main event. He takes a deep breath, ready to finally pick a class and stop being a generalist in a world of specialists. The screen pops up with the big yes or no choice, and Zack doesn't hesitate to tap it. In typical system fashion, a giant red arrow message pops up. Apparently, choosing a job requires a 6,000 coin Nexus node fee. Zack looks like he's about to punch the screen. The system is basically a greedy landlord charging him for the privilege of working. He curses the money-hungry AI but pays the fee, hoping this doesn't send out a giant kill me signal to the demons. A beam of light hits the ground and a massive glowing crystal on a pedestal appears out of thin air. Zack stares at the Nexus node, wondering if he just bought a home base or just a very expensive nightlight. He touches the base and the machinery clicks into place, syncing with his DNA. Suddenly, 5 holograms explode out of the crystal, showcasing his potential futures. He squints at the screens, his heart racing. This choice is going to decide if he lives to see next week. A grin spreads across his face. After all the grinding, he finally has options. First up is the Fighter, a common class for people who like hitting things with sticks. Upgradable, but a bit basic for someone with Zack's luck. Then there's the Acolyte, perfect if he wanted to sit in the back and throw magic sparkles while everything tries to eat him. The Marine looks cool if he planned on spending the apocalypse on a boat, but he's stuck on an island in the middle of a forest. Demon Hunter is tempting, specialized for killing the guys currently invading his home. But then he sees the rare choice. Hatchetman. The description is basically, I am the lumberjack, and the demons are the trees. Zack rubs his chin, weighing his options while looking at his shiny new axe. They're all F-grade to start, but the fact that Hatchetman is rare suggests it's got a much higher ceiling. He knows this isn't just a game, there's no reset button if he picks a class that sucks. He immediately tosses the Fighter and Acolyte in the trash. He didn't survive a glitch to be common. Choosing a common class when a rare one is right there would be like picking a bicycle when someone's offering you a tank. He thinks about Demon Hunter, but realizes it's a trap. If he's only good at killing demons, what happens when a giant space spider shows up? He imagines himself being a god-tier demon killer, looking cool and confident. And then he imagines a non-demon enemy showing up and realizing his special damage doesn't work on them. Yeah, being a one-trick pony in a multiverse full of monsters sounds like a great way to end up as a snack. The Marine is even worse. He doesn't want to be the guy who's only powerful as long as his feet are wet. The apocalypse is global. He needs a class that works on land, sea, or in a grocery store aisle. That leaves the rare choice, the one the system dangling in front of him for risking his life every single day. Hatchetman fits his style, high damage, high aggression, and it makes use of his favorite tool. He wonders if it limits him to only using axes, but then he looks at his muscles and shrugs. Actually, in this world, being a specialist in a high-tier weapon is a perk, not a problem. He reaches out and grabs the glowing crystal, his resolve hardening, and the crystal shatters into a million pieces of pure light. The system confirms the selection, and Zack's vision explodes into a surge of golden energy. Titles start raining down like achievements. Full of class, rarefied being, and trailblazer, he's officially the first person on Earth to get a class. White-hot energy ripples through his body, rebuilding his muscles and fortifying his bones. His strength and dexterity skyrocket, and you can practically hear his stats clicking upward. Endurance, vitality, intelligence, every part of him is being upgraded to a higher version. He drops to his knees as the final surge of wisdom hits his brain, making the world feel sharper and clearer. Steam rises from his skin as he huffs, feeling like he just ran a marathon and won a bodybuilding competition at the same time. He wipes the sweat from his face, his eyes glowing with newfound power. Status, he whispers. His screen is a wall of text now, level 25, Hatchetman, and a strength stat of 92. That's enough to bench press a truck. His strength alone increased by 28 points. He's officially entered the superhuman weight class. He flexes his arm and the bandages start to strain against his growing muscles. The physical transformation is insane. He feels like he could punch a hole through a mountain. Choosing a class was the smartest thing he's done so far. It's like he finally found the easy mode button in a nightmare. But there's a catch. His new skills like Axe Mastery and Chop are locked behind quests. He has to kill 1,000 enemies just to learn how to swing better. Zack sighs, realizing the system is never going to give him a free lunch. He grips his axe, the glowing orange energy of his new class dancing around him. Time to start working on that 1,000 kills quota. His current mission, kill 4 heralds and the general. He's already 2/5 of the way there. The sky over Earth is beautiful, which is a bit rude considering the planet is currently being annexed by purple people. Across the island, the demonic incursion portal is a massive red scar on the horizon, pouring out invaders. Deep in the enemy camp, we meet a guy who's taking the war way too casually. This is Keverin, sitting on a velvet throne like he's at a 5-star resort. The general, Ogros, was smart enough to send packs of mindless beasts through first to soften up the natives. Back with Zack, he's taking the lumberjack part of his new job very literally, chopping wood to build up his camp. He's working shirtless, looking like a fitness model while clearing the forest, oblivious to the demon aristocrats nearby. The demons are annoyed because they've wasted a month on this island and haven't found any real threats yet. On a galactic scale, Earth is lit up with a dozen other incursions, meaning the planet is basically a buffet for the multiverse. Every major city is currently a war zone, and Zack is just one small part of a global nightmare. Keveron smirks, thinking about the 10,000 slaves they sacrificed to open the portal. To him, the genocide is just being blessed. His scouts found a Nexus crystal vein in the mountains, a goldmine of cosmic energy that's worth more than the island itself. These crystals are the ultimate currency, and Kevoran is already planning his early retirement. He looks at his squad of scouts, thinking about how much of this treasure he can accidentally forget to report to the clan. His face is the definition of punchable, full of greedy ambition and zero respect for the planet he's stealing from. He barks orders at his subordinates, Matisis and Gormer, telling them to set up a nice spot for tea because he's tired of walking. The demons are literally having a picnic on a hill, complaining about the weather while people are dying below. His table is set with fancy cakes and tea, looking completely out of place in a monster-infested forest. He invites Kayla, the archer, to sit, trying to act like a gentleman while occupying a stolen world. Kayla is actually the smart one here. She's surprised he has time for a snack break during a literal invasion. Keveron just waves it off, claiming he always has time for what matters, which apparently means eating cake. But then, a tiny fly starts buzzing around his face, and it's the most annoyed he's been all day. He's worried the bugs will ruin his perfect meal with Kayla, showing just how out of touch he is with reality. He screams for his guard Gormer to do something about the bugs, which is a classic villain move right before things go south. But Gormer doesn't answer. Keveron looks around, his annoyance finally turning into a tiny bit of suspicion. Suddenly, Kayla gasps, her eyes widening as she reaches for her bow. A shadow drops from the trees like a meteor. It's Zack, and his axe just went straight through Gormer's chest. Talk about a party crasher. Keveron's eyes nearly pop out of his head. "A native?" he screams, shocked that a human didn't just die quietly. Zack doesn't wait for an introduction. He flings a dagger with pinpoint accuracy as the demons scramble. The blade whistles through the air, aimed right for Keveron's throat. Keveron barely blocks it with his massive sword, the force of the weak native's throw actually making his arm vibrate. Zack leaps forward, his hatchet clashing against Keveron's heavy blade in a shower of blue sparks. The sound of metal scraping metal echoes across the hill, and Keveron is stunned by the raw strength coming from this primitive human. Keveron recovers his ego and smirks, telling Zack he's looking forward to squashing him like a bug. He leans into his sword, trying to overpower Zack with his higher-tier gear and demonic energy. Zack grunts, the black demonic energy from the sword starting to eat away at his defenses. But our guy is a hatchetman now. He lets out a roar and shoves back with enough force to send the demons stumbling. Matisis, the other guard, tries to jump in from the side, but Zack is moving way too fast for them to keep up. Zack catches the guard with a brutal backhand swing, shattering his armor and sending him flying. The shockwave of the hit carves a literal trench into the ground. Zack isn't just fighting, he's a wrecking ball. The demon guard slams into the dirt, coughing up blood and wondering where this human found a cheat code. Zack doesn't let up, slamming his axe into the ground to create a shockwave that keeps Keveron off balance. Keveron is starting to sweat. He can't understand how a month-old world produced something this lethal. Zack moves like a blur, his hands gripping the axe with a level of mastery that shouldn't be possible yet. Keveron tries to unleash a black energy wave, but Zack is already in the air, coming down like an executioner. Suddenly, a bolt of purple light zaps through the air, catching Zack mid-swing. It's Kayla. She's finally found her opening and isn't missing. An arrow thunks right into Zack's shoulder. He groans in pain, the demonic energy from the tip starting to burn. He lands hard, huffing as the blood starts to soak through his bandages. The picnic just got a lot more dangerous. Keveron sees his chance and lunges forward with a die. That's way too dramatic for a guy who was eating cake 2 minutes ago. Zack looks up, his eyes glowing with a predatory light. He's not scared, he's just annoyed. He blocks the massive sword with his hatchet, the impact cracking the very ground beneath his feet. Keveron is screaming "How W" in his head. This world just started its integration, Zack shouldn't be this strong. Zack ignores the question and reaches out with his free hand, grabbing Keveron by the face. The demon lets out a muffled "ack" as Zack's fingers dig into his skull with superhuman strength. Keveron's brain is currently 90% panic and 10% "I should have stayed in the portal." Zack tosses the demon aside like a bag of trash and prepares for a follow-up strike. He throws his axe with a spinning whoosh, aiming to end the Master of Scouts right here. Zack watches the axe fly, his eyes narrowing as he calculates the trajectory. The blade slices through the air, but Keveron barely manages to deflect it at the last second, taking a nasty cut to his face. Zack doesn't stick around to chat. He leaps back into the shadows of the trees to reset the fight. He wipes the blood from his cheek, looking more like a monster than the demons do right now. Keveron stands his ground, but he's breathing heavy, realizing he's not fighting a native, he's fighting a predator. The wounded guard, Matisis, stumbles back into the fray, looking like he's about to pass out. Keveron admits that Zack is impressive for a human, his sword crackling with dark, menacing energy. He tells Zack that he's heard stories of people like him, the ones the universe tried to delete, the ones who were supposed to be trash, too weak to even survive the first day of integration. He looks at the broken tools and the tattered clothes Zack wears. He realizes that Zack is the kind of guy who fights until the heavens themselves are forced to notice him. The image of Zack's winning dice roll, that 96 versus 91, flashes back. This guy shouldn't even exist. Keveron finally says the word, Defier. It's not a title, it's a warning. He looks at Zack's axe and realizes the potential this primitive human has is terrifying. The demon looks at the red-tinted sky, feeling a strange mix of respect and murderous intent. Keveron's sword glows with a lethal, dark aura, preparing for a move that could level the forest. It's almost a shame, Keveron says, that you've decided to defy me. The real fight is just getting started. When the universe tries to delete you, you don't just sit there, you pick up an axe and start deleting back. Keveron is absolutely losing his mind, swinging his dark magic sword like he's trying to swat a very annoying, very muscular fly. Zack isn't playing around anymore, he's sliding under the blade, moving with a speed that definitely wasn't in the human instruction manual. He's right in the demon's face now, and you can tell Keveron is starting to realize that maybe bringing a sword to an axe fight was a bad move. The metal screams as they clash, and Zack's raw strength is actually starting to crack the demon's fancy, expensive posture. Zack tries to land a heavy blow, but Keveron's armor flashes with a bright light, blowing our guy back before he can finish the job. It's a massive shockwave that tears up the ground, proving that the system really loves giving the bad guys cheat codes. Zack skids back across the dirt, annoyed that the demon's armor has a built-in get-out-of-jail-free card. Keveron lunges forward with a scream, his blade trailing red energy. He's clearly tired of this primitive human not being dead yet. Zack catches the strike with the head of his axe, his muscles bulging as he holds back a wave of pure demonic spite. He shoves the blade aside and hammers his fist into Kevoran's chest, realizing that if he can't cut him, he'll just have to break him. The demon's eyes are glowing blue with pure rage. He's officially done with the tea party and ready for a murder spree. Kevoran unleashes a burst of energy that shatters the nearby table, finally ending the world's most awkward picnic. The demon looks genuinely offended that his lunch was interrupted, his face twisting into something that's definitely not ad-safe. Zack doesn't care about the furniture. He's already midair, coming down with a swing that looks like it could split a tectonic plate. The impact creates a crater, and Kevoran is forced to use every bit of his magic just to stay in one piece. The demon guard tries to jump back into the fight, but he's basically just a background extra at this point. The guard screams for his boss, but Kevoran is a bit busy trying to keep his head attached to his shoulders. Zack slams the guard into a rock wall, effectively removing him from the conversation so he can focus on the main event. Kevoran barks at his subordinate for being a loser, but he's currently crawling out of a hole, so his authority is looking a bit shaky. Zack drops the axe for a second and just goes for a tackle, realizing that the demon's magic is less effective if you're just wrestling him in the mud. They hit the ground hard, and Zack is using his newfound strength stat to turn Kevoran's face into a speed bag. The demon tries to scramble away, but Zack is like a tattered, blood-stained shadow that just won't let go. They're rolling around like two guys fighting over the last PS5 on Black Friday, pure desperation in every move. Zack gets a grip on Kevoran's throat, and you can see the moment the demon realizes that natives are actually pretty terrifying. Kevoran is gasping, his magic flickering out as Zack's hands squeeze with the force of a hydraulic press. It's a brutal, quiet struggle where the only sound is the grinding of armor and the demon's fading ego. In a last-ditch effort, Kevoran screams for Yahello to shoot, proving that he's not just a jerk but a coward who needs a girl to save him. Zack sees a flash of metal. He's grabbed a shard of broken metal from the ground, ready to finish this. He drives the shard straight into Kevoran's neck, a lethal strike that ends the Master of Scouts' career very abruptly. Kevoran's eyes go wide, the dark energy leaking out of him like a popped balloon. Zack holds him down until the light fades, making sure the job is done because he's learned that demons are surprisingly clingy. He reaches out for his axe, his hands trembling from the adrenaline and the sheer amount of blood he's lost. The demon is dead, and Zack stands over him, looking like the nightmare the demons should have been warned about. He grips the handle of his weapon, finally allowing himself a second to breathe in the silence of the forest. Kevoran's last thought was probably that humans were weak. He died being very, very wrong. A golden screen pops up. Level up, because nothing says good job like the system rewarding a murder with more power. Zack collapses for a moment, the weight of the fight finally catching up to his battered body. He's shaking, bleeding, and probably needs a nap, but there's still an archer out there who wants his head. Yahello has her bow drawn, telling him not to move, though not moving is currently the only thing Zack's body is good at. She stares at the corpse of her leader, her expression a mix of shock and the realization that she's probably next. Zack grunts as he pulls a stray dagger out of his side. It's a minor inconvenience compared to the literal apocalypse. He looks at her with eyes that say, "I've already killed your boss, don't make this a double feature." Yahello realizes she's outmatched and retreats into the trees, promising that he's going to suffer, which is basically the demon version of "I'm telling my mom." Zack watches her go, then looks down at Kevoran's body. It's time to see if the demon was carrying anything more useful than a bad attitude. He starts rummaging through the dead demon's gear, hoping for something better than the scorched rags he's currently wearing. He finds a small, shimmering bag that feels way heavier than it looks, a classic bag of holding trope. Zack opens it and his face lights up. It's like he just found the jackpot at a cosmic pawn shop. He pulls out a fancy golden cup, wondering why a guy invading a planet needs high-end kitchenware. The bag is literally stuffed with furniture, fine wine, and luxury crumpets. This demon wasn't invading, he was going on a glamping trip. Zack is genuinely offended. He's out here eating monster dogs while this guy had a portable bakery. But then he finds the real prize, a pile of glowing purple crystals that radiate pure energy. These are F-grade Nexus crystals, the high-octane fuel of the multiverse. The system explains that absorbing one takes 2 hours, but basically acts like a full-body recharge and a level-up boost. Zack holds one up, feeling the cosmic energy humming against his skin. It feels like holding a tiny, captured sun. He checks his quests. He needs to kill 4 heralds and the general, and the reward is even more of these crystals. He starts the absorption process, his body soaking up the light like a sponge as his wounds begin to knit back together. Half an hour later, he's already feeling like a new man, and he's decided to help himself to Kevoran's armor. He clips the Cosmos bag to his belt, feeling significantly richer and way better dressed for the end of the world. Zack smirks at the corpse, thanking him for the gear. It's the most polite thing he's done all day. He tries out Kevoran's massive black sword, but realizes it's not for him. He's a hatchet guy. and he's sticking to his roots. He looks at the dead guard, realizing the demon army is going to be very confused when their scouts don't come home for dinner. He stuffs the sword into his new bag anyway. Even if he doesn't use it, it's a great paperweight or a very threatening gift. Zach checks his progress again, feeling like he's finally starting to play the game on his own terms. He's 2 for 5 on the big bosses, and the clock is ticking on the 3-month deadline. He notices his Incursion Master Quest is still at 0, which is the system's way of saying he hasn't actually done anything impressive yet. His Axe Mastery skill needs 1,000 kills, and he's only at 132, apparently. He needs to find a more crowded part of the forest. He's killed the big wolf and the demon dog, leaving an imp and 1 mystery monster left on his hit list. Zach sighs, realizing that being Earth's only defender is a lot of paperwork and a lot of cardio. Then there's the general, the guy who sent all these idiots here in the first place. He looks over the battlefield, the bodies already starting to turn into ash as the system cleans up the mess. He turns toward the center of the island where a massive red beam is shooting into the clouds. "Incursion General," he whispers, his eyes turning cold. It's time to meet the manager and lodge a very violent complaint. From the mountain, he sees the demon camp. It's not a camp, it's a full-blown Gothic city they're building on his home. Zach crouches in the bushes, looking down at the army. "Let's see how you like being invaded," he says, and honestly, the demons should start running now. Down in the demon outpost, someone finally noticed their scouts were missing, and the panic is starting to set in. Guards are rushing out of the gate, screaming that their friends are being slaughtered by a native monster. They have no idea what's attacking them, which is the best kind of psychological warfare. They dash through the mud, looking for a ghost that's already moved on to his next target. The sun is setting, and the demon fortress looks like a jagged needle sticking out of the forest. A commander halts his troops, his face pale as he looks at the trail of destruction Zach left behind. "What happened out here?" he asks. Though the answer is pretty obvious, a guy with an axe happened. He stares at the pile of dead beasts and broken armor, realizing this newly initiated world has a very sharp bite. Zach is watching from the trees, huffing as he tries to catch his breath. He's strong, but he's still just one guy. His kill count is at 160. He's got a long way to go if he wants to master that axe skill. He knows he can't just Leroy Jenkins his way into the general's office. He'd be turned into a pincushion before he hit the door. Sneaking isn't an option either. The demon guards have senses that are way too sharp for a guy who smells like sweat and monster blood. Whittling down a few thousand demons would take a lifetime, and Zach only has 3 months before the sector is forfeited. He notices a group of demons heading toward a cave in the mountains, looking like they're on a very important, very secret mission. Mining? Exploring? He wonders. Whatever it is, it's probably a good place to find high-level loot. The majority of the army is busy playing SimCity, building up their dark outpost while they think they're safe. Zach watches them, realizing that these aren't just monsters created by the system to be killed. He sees them laughing, joking, and playing games. They're a real civilization, just one that happens to be stealing his planet. They're living, breathing creatures with their own lives, which makes the whole genocide thing a bit more complicated. He wonders if they even want to be here, or if they're just cogs in a cosmic machine, just like he is. Then he remembers they're currently building a city on top of his favorite camping spot and kills that thought instantly. "They're invaders on my island," he says, his eyes turning back into cold steel. He thinks about his family and the promise he made to find them. That's the only motivation he needs. If he has to clear out a few thousand demons to reach his goals, then he's going to be the most efficient exterminator Earth has ever seen. "So be it," he whispers, disappearing back into the dark woods. The plan is simple. Hunt down the other 2 heralds, get their XP, and then come back for the big boss. He heads high into the mountains, looking like a lone wolf stalking a pack of very well-armed sheep. But finding a boss in a giant mountain range is basically like looking for a needle in a haystack made of monsters. He searches the high ridges, the trees getting thinner and the air getting colder as he climbs. He picks off a few lone scouts along the way, his kill count slowly ticking up toward the 200 mark. He checks the edges of the island, the small caves, and the hidden valleys, but the big bosses are playing hard to get. He stands on a jagged peak, looking out over the ocean. He's cleared out every monster on this side of the island. He's at 448 kills now, basically a part-time job of just swinging his axe at anything that moves. He climbs a sheer cliff face, his fingers digging into the rock. Who needs a gym when you're surviving the apocalypse? He reaches the top and looks out over a hidden plateau, the wind whipping his cloak around. He exhales, wiping the sweat from his brow. Even a hatchetman gets tired of the stairs. Suddenly, he sees it, a red beam of energy coming from a deep ravine in the distance. Zach's eyes sharpen. He finally found the right place to do some damage. Perched on a nearby branch is a stone monkey. It looks like a gorilla made of granite with glowing lava for veins. "Well, hello. What are you?" Zack asks, though he's already reaching for his axe. He uses Eye of Discernment, and the system confirms it's a stone monkey beast aligned with the demon clan. Finally, he says, realizing the last two heralds are an imp and a very angry rock ape. The monkey lets out a roar that sounds like two mountains grinding together, its mouth glowing with orange light. It lunges from the tree with the force of a falling boulder, ready to crush Zack into a human pancake. Zack dashes forward, his movements a blur of gold and black energy. He swings his hatchet, the metal screeching as it hits the monkey's stone hide in a shower of sparks. He slices right through the beast, his kill count hitting 899. He's almost at the finish line. The monkey drops some Nexus coins, and Zack realizes these guys don't leave their territory, which is why he hasn't seen them yet. He stands over the rubble of the monkey, steam rising from his axe as he looks deeper into the ravine. A screeching sound echoes through the mountains, apparently that monkey had a lot of friends. Zack whirls around as more stone monkeys emerge from the trees, looking very upset about their roommate being turned into gravel. An entire army of rock apes starts rumbling down the hills, a literal landslide of teeth and claws. "All right, apes, let's see what you're made of," Zack says with a smirk that's 100% confidence. The monkeys roar in unison, charging Zack from every direction like he's the world's most dangerous banana. Zack leaps into the air, remembering every fight he's had since the system arrived. He's a whirlwind of destruction, his axe carving through stone like it's wet cardboard. At first, he didn't understand why he was chosen for this, why he was the one stuck on this island. As he hits 939 kills, he thinks about his family, his friends, and the world he lost. The more he fights, the more he realizes that the universe doesn't care about fair, it only cares about who's left standing. He cuts down monkey after monkey, his movements becoming more fluid, more instinctive. 982, the numbers are ticking up, and the air around him is starting to hum with a new kind of power. 996, he's in the zone now, the world slowing down as he finds the perfect rhythm for every swing. The fabric of the multiverse starts to make sense to him. It's not a game, it's a test of will. "My enemies are an endless forest," he thinks, his eyes glowing with an intense golden light. "And I am the lumberjack." He brings his axe down for the 1000th kill. A massive shockwave of energy explodes from the point of impact, blinding everything in the ravine. Huh? Zack blinks, and suddenly, he's not in the mountains anymore. He's standing in front of a massive, white and gold palace that looks like it belongs in a god's dream. "Where am I? Is this a vision?" he asks, his voice echoing in the infinite, pink-tinted sky. Above him, an army of winged angels and glowing giants are flying toward the palace. It's an army of millions, a cosmic force that makes the demon incursion look like a schoolyard fight. He stares at a giant stone-faced warrior, realizing that the system is way bigger than he ever imagined. He sees a snake-like demon in ornate armor, a commander of a force that could swallow entire worlds. Zack is stunned by the raw power on display. It's a glimpse into the true nature of the multiverse. Suddenly, a bald man in simple robes walks past him, carrying an axe that looks like it's seen 10,000 wars. Where did he come from? Zack wonders, unable to even move as the man approaches the massive army. The bald warrior lifts his axe, and the air itself starts to crackle with purple electricity. He's not just strong, he's a force of nature. His eyes glow with a light that feels heavier than a mountain. With a single, simple swing, he unleashes a blast of energy that dwarfs anything Zack has ever seen. The attack carves through the entire army, splitting reality itself in a blinding white light. Zack watches in awe as the world dissolves into purple static, the power of that one swing burned into his mind. The vision shatters, and Zack is back in the ravine, the last stone monkeys being vaporized by a new energy. He's glowing with purple and orange lightning, his body finally understanding the true Tao of the axe. A screen pops up. Tao seed gained. Heaviness. He just unlocked the God Mode starter pack. Zack slams his axe into the ground, and the entire ravine collapses under the sheer weight of his new power. He stands in the center of the wreckage, his axe humming with cosmic weight. What was that? He asks, and honestly, the demons are about to find out the hard way. The ground is literally covered in the rubble of 1,000 monkeys, and Zack is sitting there like he just finished a light afternoon jog. He's staring at the notification for his new Tao seed, wondering if he accidentally just downloaded the source code for the universe. The system confirms it's the Tao seed of heaviness, giving him a massive boost to strength and endurance just for having a big brain moment. Zack lifts his axe, feeling a strange new connection to it. It's like he finally understands that an axe isn't just a tool, it's a lifestyle. His hand crackles with purple electricity as he grips the handle, the cosmic energy finally starting to make sense. He thinks back to the bald guy in his vision, the man whose every swing felt like the literal end of the world. He tries to mimic that feeling, focusing on the heaviness of the concept rather than the weight of the metal. He lets out a simple swish, but the air pressure alone is enough to make the grass cower. The ground splits in a perfect line, proving that when Zack thinks about being heavy, gravity actually listens. He's huffing and puffing, realizing that being enlightened is actually a pretty great cardio workout. The vision showed him that there's way more to this Tao stuff than just weight. He's basically just finished the prologue of a very long book. He stares at the reflection in his axe, wondering how much more he's missing because he skipped the tutorial. The image of the bald master haunts him, a reminder that in the multiverse there's always a bigger fish, and that fish is usually bald and muscular. Then the system drops a reality check. He's only the third person in the world to reach enlightenment. Zack's eye twitches at the word third. Apparently, 2 other people on Earth are already outgrinding him. He imagines some bodybuilder in a gym somewhere accidentally splitting a treadmill in half and getting a Tao seed for it. The tutorial ended for everyone else after a month, meaning the rest of humanity is currently out there playing the game while he's stuck on this island. He wonders how many geniuses are out there, people who were actually born for this instead of just rolling a high number on a dice. He sees a vision of suits and soldiers in a high-tech bunker, realizing the government is probably already taxing people for their level 1 fireballs. Zack has always been at the front of the line, so being third feels like a personal insult from the universe. He checks his stats, level 28, a strength of 136, and over 100,000 Nexus coins. He's basically a walking bank vault. He knows he needs to push harder, because in the New World Order, the strong are the ones who get to write the rules. Suddenly, something catches his eye. A flickering on his quest screen that he's been too busy to notice. His chop quest is at 9,952. He's literally a handful of swings away from finishing his most tedious chore. Meanwhile, inside a dark Gothic castle, things are actually looking up for the bad guys, or at least for one of them. Meet Ogras, the general. He just got the news that his rival Keveron is dead, and he's trying very hard not to throw a party. The messenger reports the death, and Ogras is sitting on his throne looking like he just won the lottery but has to pretend he's sad. They suspect a small force of elite warriors killed their scouts, which is the demon version of "it must have been a glitch." Ogras is internally laughing his horns off. Keveron was a moron, and his death just cleared a lot of political obstacles. He fakes a cough to hide his grin, blaming the planet's air for his sudden case of the giggles. He's a bit bummed that his spy, Yahello, was killed too, but that's just the cost of doing business when your employees are incompetent. He orders a squad to check on the other heralds, Cindermane and Kugo, finally realizing the natives might actually have hands. Ogras's plan is simple: let his soldiers and the humans kill each other while he sits back and drinks the good wine. His bodyguard Elvire tells him to stop smiling because it's making the other demons nervous. Ogras really needs to work on his serious general face. Back at the mountain, Zack is lining up the mother of all swings. He's sweaty, tired, and one swing away from completing a quest that would make a normal lumberjack quit. "One more," he says, gripping the axe like it's the only thing keeping him grounded. He brings it down with a chop that sounds like a thunderclap, purple lightning arcing off the blade. Quest complete. 10,000 out of 10,000. Give this man a trophy and a long nap. The energy surge is insane, his body glowing like he just swallowed a neon sign. He stands on the edge of the cliff, looking out over the mountains he's been haunting for days. He starts climbing again, his movements faster and more sure than ever before. Zack is basically a mountain goat with an axe at this point, scaling vertical walls like they're stairs. He reaches a high peak and looks down into a hidden valley, his eyes narrowing. "Hey!" he shouts, and the monkeys below look up like, "Oh great, the axe guy is back." A pack of stone monkeys charges at him, their eyes glowing with that "we're about to get turned into gravel" rage. Zack's face is pure focus. He's not fighting for survival anymore, he's fighting for efficiency. His axe shimmers with a new light, the concept of heaviness making the metal look like it's made of captured starlight. The monkeys leap, but they're basically just flying targets for Zack's new hobby. He swings, his face illuminated by the purple static of his own power. "Chop," he whispers. It's not just a command, it's a lifestyle choice. The axe glows brighter, the sheer weight of the concept distorting the air around it. A massive blast of energy erases the monkeys from existence, leaving nothing but a crater and some very confused mountain air. The shockwave is so big it probably registered on a seismograph in another dimension. Zack looks down at the wreckage, realizing these mountains were hiding something more important than just angry apes. He can feel it. The concentration of cosmic energy is getting higher the further he goes. The sky over the valley is filled with shimmering pink petals looking like a dream while the world below is a nightmare. He sees a monkey dragging a kill and notices they're acting way more organized than the mindless beasts from the forest. They remind him of the demons, organized, purposeful, and probably much harder to kill. They move in packs, led by commanders that look like they've actually been to the gym. A larger monkey sniffs the air, its glowing orange eyes scanning for the source of the heavy energy. Zack walks past a pile of defeated monkeys, his cape fluttering. He's officially too strong for the common mobs. He spends days climbing, looking for the one monkey that's actually worth his time. The sun sets over the peaks, and Zack is starting to think the herald might be hiding in a cave somewhere playing video games. Until he sees it, a change in the air, a shift in the energy that makes his skin crawl. "You're not up here at all, are you?" he realizes, looking down at the valley floor. The entire valley is filled with those shimmering pink petals, swirling around a single massive tree. Zack looks down from the cliff, spotting a lone figure sitting under the tree's glowing branches. He takes a step forward, the wind whistling through the rocks as he prepares for the biggest fight of his life. He's sweating, his heart pounding. This is the moment where heaviness meets a brick wall. "Wait," he says to himself, noticing how still the figure is. The tree is a massive, purple trunk nightmare with white leaves, looking like something out of a haunted garden. The petals dance in the moonlight, creating a scene that's way too beautiful for a murder. And there he is, sitting like a king beneath the tree. This is Cindermane. He looks like a monkey who reached nirvana and then decided to put on some really fancy armor. The system confirms it. Level 58 Stone Monkey Herald. That's 30 levels higher than Zack. This isn't a fight, it's a suicide mission. Cindermane opens his eyes, and they glow with a light that says, "You've made a very big mistake by coming here." Zack doesn't wait for a formal greeting. He drops from the sky with a swing that should have ended the fight instantly. The monkey catches the axe with his bare hands. The ground crumbles, but the ape doesn't even blink. Zack is gritting his teeth, his arms shaking as he tries to push through a defense that feels like it's made of pure obsidian. Cindermane lets out a low growl, his face illuminated by the purple sparks of Zack's energy. The monkey's eyes flashes with a blinding yellow light, the classic "I'm about to do something cool" anime signal. A massive burst of golden energy explodes from the herald, sending a shockwave that probably flattened every flower in the valley. Zack is blown back, his axe trailing lightning as he tries to find his footing in the chaos. Cindermane is on him in a flash, delivering a wham that sends Zack flying across the clearing. Our guy skids across the dirt, looking like a discarded action figure while the monkey prepares a follow-up. Zack huffs, wiping blood from his lip. "That's a herald all right," he mutters, realizing his stats might have been a bit overhyped. His strength has tripled, he has a Dao seed and a rare class, and he's still getting tossed around like a salad. Cindermane looks at his hand, which is glowing with the residue of Zack's attack. He's clearly impressed that a native actually made him try. The two warriors stand off, the massive glowing tree serving as the world's most expensive background prop. They take a step toward each other, the tension thick enough to cut with, well, an axe. Zack dashes forward again, his movements a blur. He's leaning into his dexterity, realizing raw power isn't enough. Cindermane leaps from the tree, glowing with electricity like he's trying to be a fuzzy version of Thor. The ground rumbles as the monkey slams down, creating a jagged wall of stone to block Zack's path. Zack leaps over the rocks, his cape flying. He's basically playing "The Floor is Lava" with a 30-foot-tall monkey. He lets out a massive slash of white energy, hoping to catch the herald midair. Zack's face is a mask of pure determination, his eyes glowing as he focuses every bit of his heaviness into the strike. They clash against the cliffside, the impact sending chunks of mountain falling into the valley below. It's a whoosh of speed as they trade blows, moving faster than the eye can follow. Zack sees an opening, a literal flaming monkey fist coming right for his face. He takes the hit but lands a kick that sends Cindermane tumbling back. Finally, a point for the home team. The monkey looks stunned, his fancy armor taking a slam that it definitely wasn't rated for. Zack's chest is a mess of blood and torn cloth, proving that winning a trade with Cindermane still hurts like hell. They're moving so fast the valley looks like it's being hit by a localized thunderstorm. The pink petals are covered in blood now, which is a great metaphor for Zack's entire week. Zack dashes again, his vision starting to blur from the sheer intensity of the fight. Cindermane is right behind him, his fangs bared. He's clearly tired of the game and ready for the kill. Zack notices something. Every time he gets close to the tree, the monkey gets way more aggressive. A smirk spreads across Zack's face. "I don't even have to aim for you, do I?" he realizes. He fakes a charge at Cindermane, then pivots midair to aim his axe straight at the glowing tree. Just like he hoped, the monkey throws himself into the path of the axe to protect his favorite plant. Zack's axe bites deep into Cindermane's shoulder, a crash of blood and purple energy. The monkey is screaming, but he's still holding onto the axe blade, refusing to let it hit the tree. Zack looks him in the eye, genuinely respecting the monkey's resolve. It's a shame he has to turn him into a rug. "You're just like me," Zack says, as he channels a massive surge of energy into the axe handle. The energy sizzles, burning through Cindermane's defense as the monkey lets out a final pained roar. The scream echoes through the entire mountain range. It's not a cry of pain, it's a signal. The sound ripples over the peaks and Zack feels a cold shiver go down his spine. Shit, Zack mutters, realizing the normal stone monkeys did the exact same scream right before they swarmed him. A rock slams into Zack's head, throwing off his concentration and his balance. He goes into a tumble, skidding across the dirt as the first wave of monkey reinforcements arrives. Zack pulls himself up, looking like he just went through a meat grinder. "No," he whispers. "I was so close." He's covered in blood, his left eye swollen shut, looking more like a corpse than a defier. He looks up at the ridge, and it's a literal wall of monkeys, thousands of them, led by more commanders. Zack grips his axe, his face twisting in a mix of fury and the realization that he's officially in over his head. Cindermane stands up, wounded but still terrifying as his monkey army gathers behind him. Zack turns to run. He's a hatchetman, not a suicide man, and he knows when a fight is unwinnable. He dashes into the woods, the entire mountain range rumbling as the monkeys give chase. "I'll never make it," he thinks, his body screaming in protest with every step. His cosmic energy is almost at zero, and his heaviness is starting to feel like a literal anchor. He sees a dark cave opening ahead. It's a gamble, but it's the only option that isn't dying in the grass. He skids into the cave, the darkness swallowing him as the sounds of the horde get louder. His boots slide across the damp rock, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The thrum of the chasing monkeys is getting closer, their roars echoing off the cave walls. "This might be a really dumb idea," Zack says, looking up at the cave ceiling. He thinks back to his Tao seed and the master in the vision. He needs to do that move, just once more. He puts everything he has left, every drop of energy, every ounce of will, into one final heavy swing. Boom! The axe hits the roof of the cave entrance and the world itself seems to shudder. A massive landslide of rock and dirt collapses, burying the entrance and trapping Zack in the dark. The dust settles, and for the first time in days, it's finally quiet. Zack stands in the pitch black, his eyes glowing faintly. He's trapped, injured, and low on energy, but at least he doesn't have to look at any more monkeys for a while. Zack is trapped in the dark, buried under a mountain of rubble with no one to help him but his own grit. He starts wrapping his hands, feeling the weight of the situation. He's the strongest he's ever been, but he's still stuck in a hole while the clock on the world's survival keeps ticking. At least he's got a lead. The third herald is right on the other side of that rock pile, probably throwing a victory party with his monkey buddies. Zack just needs a different exit. He pulls himself up, leaning on his axe as his body screams in protest. He figures this cave might hook up with the mines he saw the demons working earlier. There's really only one way to find out. He starts walking into the gloom, hoping the cave doesn't just end in a solid wall. The further he goes, the deeper the tunnel stretches, the silence only broken by the sound of his own boots on the stone. As he moves, the cave starts to glow with a strange, faint blue light reflecting off the damp walls. Zack reaches out and touches the wall, feeling a hum of energy. The air here is thick with cosmic power, just like it was at the mountain peaks. He stares at a fragment of glowing crystal, wondering if the fourth and final herald is hiding somewhere in these deep tunnels. It would actually make a lot of sense, considering he's searched the rest of the island and found absolutely nothing but trees and monsters. Suddenly, he freezes. A rhythmic tapping sound echoes from around the corner, and it's definitely not a water droplet. Zack presses himself against the cold rock, staying as still as a statue while the pattering sound gets closer and closer. He peeks around the edge, his eyes narrowing as he confirms his suspicions. He's not alone in here. A small, winged imp scampers past, clutching a glowing shard. Zack realizes if there are imps in these caverns, the boss can't be far behind. The imp is cackling to itself, completely unaware that the deadliest thing on the island is currently stalking it from the shadows. It stops at a patch of glowing blue flora, clearly heading toward a specific destination. The little guy is busy admiring its loot, which is a pretty bold move for something that's essentially a snack-sized demon. It looks like it's hoarding Nexus crystals, the very stuff Zack needs to power up and pay for his base. Zack is surprised that monsters even know how to use these things, but honestly, he's more focused on the tactical advantage. He cracks a sharp, dangerous smirk. If he follows this little thief, it'll lead him straight to the motherlode. But before he can move, a massive blur streaks through the air, lunging out of the darkness with terrifying speed. A giant, multi-armed lizard snaps its jaws shut, turning the poor imp into a mid-afternoon snack in a single bite. Zack just stares, his plan to tail the imp literally going down the throat of a random cave predator. He's not even impressed, he's just annoyed. Now he's got a giant, hungry lizard standing between him and his goal. The lizard gulps down the rest of the imp, looking pretty satisfied with its hunting skills. It digs its claws into the ground, turning its predatory gaze toward the next thing on the menu, which happens to be our guy. The lizard charges with a roar, but Zack doesn't even flinch. He just tightens his grip on his axe, ready to end this interruption. In one smooth, blinding motion, Zack swings. A massive arc of red energy cleaves through the air, and the lizard is dead before it even realizes it missed. Zack lets out a tired sigh, resting the axe on his shoulder. He's got no time for small fry monsters when there are heralds to hunt. He walks over to where the imp dropped its crystals and scoops them up. Waste not, want not. The trail might be cold, but Zack is a tracker. He figures he can still find where the imp came from if he looks hard enough. He continues deeper into the glowing blue cavern, the environment becoming more alien and beautiful with every step. Tracking the imps turns out to be way easier than he expected, mostly because they smell like a dumpster fire in a swamp. He covers his nose, wondering if these demons have ever even heard of a shower. It's a literal trail of stench leading him forward, but it's not just the smell getting stronger. A metallic ting-ting sound starts echoing through the tunnels, cutting through the silence. He moves toward the light at the end of the tunnel, the clanging of tools getting louder and more frequent. Zack realizes exactly what's happening. This isn't just a cave, it's a full-blown operation. He looks out over the ledge and sees it. The demons are mining his Nexus crystals, and they're doing it with a lot of enthusiasm. Zack's eyes glow with a lethal light. Nobody steals from the guy who's trying to save the world, not on his watch. He hears the demons shouting in their guttural language, their voices bouncing off the high cavern walls. He ducks down as the voices get uncomfortably close. He's outnumbered, and the terrain doesn't give him many places to disappear. He looks around frantically for cover, but this part of the tunnel is as bare as a bone. Heavy footsteps approach, and the demonic chatter is now right on top of him. 3 demon miners walk into view, carrying their heavy pickaxes and looking exhausted from their shift. One of them, a guy named Zerez, is complaining about his boss. Apparently, the lady in charge runs the place like a slave camp. His buddy warns him to quiet down, but Zerez is on a roll. He figures they're far enough away that she won't hear his whining. He's salty because he got accused of skimming crystals even though his load was heavy. He asks where they're even going now. Zerez flashes a greedy grin, mentioning a hidden vein of crystals they found that's tucked away from the main camp. He's planning on doing exactly what he was accused of, stealing for himself. He notices his 2 friends have suddenly stopped talking and are looking at something behind him with pure terror. He mocks them, asking if they're really that scared of the boss lady. Little does he know, she's the least of his problems right now. Zack doesn't give him time to finish the sentence. A massive blue energy blade cleaves through the air, and Zerez's mining days are officially over. The other 2 demons stand there frozen, watching their friend's head leave his shoulders. Their workplace safety rating just hit 0. Zack lands among them like a god of death. One of them finally finds his voice and screams for them to run. But it's already too late. Zack's face is splattered with blood, his eyes burning with a cold, predatory light. He isn't letting any witnesses leave this tunnel. He digs his heel into the ground, the stone cracking under the sheer weight of his Dao power. The ground explodes outward as he launches himself forward, a human cannonball with a very sharp axe. He catches the first demon with a brutal backhand swing, the impact sounding like a bag of glass being hit with a sledgehammer. The last demon, a guy named Kugo's subordinate, is hyperventilating as he tries to reach the corner. He tries to scream out a warning, but a dagger finds its home in his back first. The demon slumps against the wall, the life fading from his eyes as the realization sinks in that he should have stayed in bed today. Zack moves like a shadow through the red-tinted air, his cape fluttering behind him as he hunts the survivors. He finishes the job with a final decisive strike, making sure the natives know exactly who's boss on this island. He steps through the puddles of demon blood, his boots making a wet splat on the cavern floor. Zack takes a breath, shaking the blood off his axe. He's lucky, he managed to end that quickly before they could sound the alarm. He looks around the corner, his eyes narrowing as he sees a thick green haze starting to drift through the tunnels. The scene ahead is a nightmare. A massive pit filled with imps, bubbling cauldrons, and a toxic fog that looks like it could melt lungs. Zack stares at the sheer scale of the operation and can't help but mutter to himself. This just went from a simple exit search to a suicide mission. The deeper you go, the more the world wants you dead. Down in the pit, the demon elites are already on high alert. They've spotted the native intruder, and they aren't exactly rolling out the welcome mat. The little imps are scurrying around with bowls of glowing toxic sludge looking like the world's worst catering crew. And there he is, the big cheese. Kugo, level 44. He's a 4-eyed imp shaman stirring a giant pot of death. Honestly, his cooking skills look pretty questionable. Zack steps out into the open, not even trying to hide anymore. He looks at the shaman and asks the obvious, "Are you the 4th Herald?" He's ready to check the next name off his list. Kugo doesn't answer with words. He swings his giant spoon, and a massive wave of purple soulfire erupts towards Zack. Zack slides under the blast, the heat singing his cape. He's moving like a man possessed, dodging the magic and closing the gap in seconds. He clashes with a shield-bearing demon guard, the sound of steel on steel ringing through the cavern like a thunderclap. The demon's shield starts to crack under the sheer weight of Zack's Tao. Zack is smirking. These guys really thought a bit of wood and iron could stop him? His eyes flash with golden light. He's found an opening, and he's not the type to let it go to waste. He pivots around a spear thrust, the movement so fast it leaves a blur. The demons are starting to realize they're fighting a monster in human skin. One of the elite guards screams for his buddy to kill Zack, his face twisted in a mix of rage and genuine panic. Zack doesn't give them the chance. He drives his blade straight through the guard's chest, using the guy as a human shield against the next wave of attacks. Kugo is screeching now, waving his arms as more purple fire swirls around his cauldron. He's clearly losing his cool. Zack tosses the dead guard aside with a sarcastic sorry, already leaping into the air for his next strike. He brings his axe down with enough force to shatter the floor, the shockwave sending demons flying like bowling pins. The cavern is filled with the screams of dying demons and the roar of magical flames. It's total chaos, and Zack is right in the center of it. He realizes the fire isn't normal, it's sticking to everything like napalm. He notes that while the imps are weak, their magic is a real pain in the neck. He stares down Kugo, who's looking more and more like a cornered rat. Zack figures the boss should follow the same pattern as the minions, strong at range, weak up close. He dives through a gap in the flames, ignoring the heat. His best bet is to get in Kugo's face and end this before he gets cooked alive. But the floor is literally melting under his feet. Even with his stats, he can't stay in the fire forever without becoming a barbecue. He leaps over a blast, his axe glowing with orange energy. The imps below look up in terror as a human meteor descends upon them. He cleaves through a group of them in mid-air, the red arc of his swing cutting a path through the purple haze. Zack sprints through the chaos, his mind racing. This herald seems to have a death wish, willing to burn down the entire cave just to kill one intruder. He looks at the bubbling green cauldron. Whatever Kugo is cooking, the smell alone is enough to make Zack's head spin. The shaman unleashes a massive blast of toxic smoke, a wall of purple and green that completely hides him from view. A massive explosion rocks the cavern, sending debris flying everywhere. Zack is forced to take cover as the air itself starts to burn. He turns and runs, the fire chasing him like a living thing. This isn't just a fight anymore, it's an environmental hazard. Another boom echoes behind him. Kugo is just spamming area of effect attacks now, not even caring if he hits his own troops. Zack finds himself backed into a corner, the flames closing in. He grits his teeth. There's literally no way out of this one. Kugo stands over his cauldron, the fire swirling around him like a crown. He thinks he's already won. The imp flashes a jagged, toothy grin, cackling as he prepares the final blow. He's really enjoying this a bit too much. He unleashes a massive beam of concentrated toxic fire, a direct hit that should, by all accounts, vaporize Zack instantly. But the smoke clears, and Zack is still standing. He's glowing with a strange golden light, looking like he just decided to stop caring about physics. He remembers the armor he took from Keveron. The previous owner used it to block Zack's own attacks. Now it's time for some poetic justice. The breastplate has a special ability. It can block and redirect a single massive attack. It's basically a high-stakes no-you. Zack channels the fire into the armor, the metal glowing white-hot. He redirects the entire blast right back at the shaman's face. The pillar of fire slams into Kugo, the impact throwing the imp backward into the shadows. Talk about a backfire. Zack collapses to one knee, his head spinning and his body covered in burns. He's alive, but he's definitely seen better days. He starts coughing violently, the toxic smoke finally getting to his lungs. His vision is starting to blur at the edges. He looks at the cauldron, which is still bubbling away, releasing more of that nasty green gas into the air. He sees Kugo trying to crawl away into a side tunnel. Zack knows if the herald escapes now, he'll never get another chance like this. No, Zack growls, forcing himself back to his feet. He refuses to let the world end because he was too tired to finish the job. He pours every last drop of his energy into his axe, the weapon erupting with a massive, blinding aura of power. He screams as he launches himself for one final, desperate strike. Where do you think you're going? The axe comes down like the hand of a god, the shockwave tearing through the ground and the air alike. The blade slices through Kugo with a clean, lethal line. The shaman doesn't even have time to scream before he's split in two. A massive level oop notification flashes in front of Zack's eyes. He's done it. The fourth herald is officially down. Zack drops to his knees, clutching his chest. His lungs feel like they're filled with hot lead. The quest counter ticks up. 3 out of 5 targets eliminated. The remaining imps are still screeching in the distance, but Zack can't even focus on them. The smoke is becoming a solid wall of poison. He reaches for his belt, his hands shaking so much he can barely grip his own gear. He realizes if he doesn't dump the cauldron, the toxic smoke will fill the entire mountain and kill him anyway. He grabs the edge of the heavy pot. Kugo's body lies nearby, sizzling in the very soup he spent all day brewing. It's a fittingly disgusting end for a disgusting monster. Zack tips the cauldron over, and a wave of glowing green sludge pours out across the floor, hissing as it hits the stone. He tries to stumble toward the exit, but his legs give out. He feels sick, his heart racing at a dangerous speed. He falls onto his back, gasping for air that isn't there. Blood trickles from his mouth as his body finally shuts down from the stress. He tries to reach out, his fingers clawing at the air, but he simply can't do it anymore. Darkness starts to take over. The screen fades to a thick, toxic green. Zack is the strongest human left on Earth, but right now, he's just a man, dying in the dark. Is this where the legend ends? Waking up in a pile of dirt after being gassed by an evil imp isn't exactly the heroic journey Zack had in mind. He winces as consciousness returns, his head throbbing like a drum set in a thunderstorm. Our guy struggles to his hands and knees, and for a second, it looks like he's about to give the cave floor a very unwelcome liquid gift. He wipes his mouth, wondering what kind of illegal substances that Harold was brewing to make him feel this much like a walking corpse. He didn't even take a sip of the green soup and he's already puking his guts out. The service in this cave is officially 1 star. Zack pulls himself together and starts limping away. Having a cauldron of poison as a neighbor is a property value nightmare he needs to escape. He has no idea how long he was out, but in this world, being unconscious for 5 minutes is usually a great way to get eaten by something with too many eyes. He passes the lizard he chopped earlier, which is still lying there in pieces, serving as a very grim landmark. Seeing the body still there is actually a relief. It means no other demon patrols have stumbled down this way to find their missing boss yet. He finds a water pouch on one of the dead miners and drains it. It's probably demon backwash, but at this point, he isn't being picky. Zack looks down at his breastplate, realizing that without its special return to sender ability, he'd currently be a pile of ash. The glowing fractal on the armor is dim, slowly recharging its power like a phone on a broken charger. It looks like he only gets 1 get-out-of-death-free card per day, so he'll have to try not to be an idiot for the next 24 hours. He pulls out a high-grade Nexus crystal, letting the blue energy surge into his body to jumpstart his system. The energy hit is better than a triple-shot espresso, clearing the cobwebs out of his brain and getting his heart racing again. Finally feeling like a human being again, Zack pulls up his status window to see how much imp-slaying profit he actually made. He's sitting at level 34 with over 500,000 coins, but his strength stat is glowing red at 175. He tries to dump his new free points into strength, but the system just gives him a big fat error message. Zack stares at the screen in disbelief, apparently. The multiverse has a no-gains policy after a certain point. He's genuinely offended that there might be a cap this low. If 175 is the limit for the entire universe, the universe is significantly weaker than he thought. He thinks back to the Bald Master from his vision. There is absolutely no way that guy was bench-pressing reality with only 175 strength. He figures the system is just gatekeeping him based on his level, which is a classic RPG move to keep players from getting too broken too early. Either that, or his F-rank race and class are holding him back, but he has no idea how to prestige his human status yet. He groans, rubbing his head. If he ends up losing out on stat points because of some hidden rule, he's going to have a very serious conversation with the manager of the universe. To make matters worse, he can't even put points into luck, which is the one stat that's actually kept him alive this long. He lets out a long sigh, realizing the system is basically a rigged casino where the house always wins, and he's the one paying for the chips. Zack continues down the tunnel and eventually finds the source of all that clanging, a massive, well-organized mining camp. Down below, the demon miners are trembling in their boots, trying to act like they aren't terrified of the woman standing in front of them. The warden approaches with a pair of armored guards, her footsteps echoing with the kind of authority that makes you want to check if your taxes are filed. Her eyes are cold and glowing with a faint blue light, scanning the crowd for any signs of laziness or, heaven forbid, breaks. The miners are sweating bullets, clutching their meager bags of crystals like their lives depend on it, because they actually do. She reaches out a hand, demanding to see the day's haul in a voice that sounds like it's never heard a joke in its life. She stares at the bag for a long, silent moment, the tension in the cave becoming thick enough to cut with a pickaxe. She pours the shards out, her expression staying neutral, which is usually a very bad sign for everyone involved. She moves on to the next person, her quill scratching against a clipboard as she keeps a running tally of who lives and who dies. The next miner is stuttering. his face turning a lovely shade of panic purple as he tries to explain why his bag feels a bit light. The warden shuts him down instantly. She doesn't do excuses, and she certainly doesn't do underperforming employees in her clan's mind. She leans in close, looming over the poor guy and asking if he's a traitor to the clan Aj-Rezak. She lifts his chin with her quill, her voice dropping to a whisper as she asks him if he has any idea what happens to traitors in her workplace. The miner hits the deck, begging for one more chance and promising he'll work double shifts if she just doesn't kill him right now. She isn't moved. She signals her guards to make an example out of him to keep the other interns in line. An armored demon draws his sword, the red light of the cavern reflecting off the blade as he prepares to end the miner's career permanently. But suddenly, the guard stops, his red eyes widening as he senses a vibration coming from the deeper parts of the tunnel. Zach is watching the whole drama from the ledge, tightening his grip on his axe and waiting for the perfect moment to ruin everyone's day. The warden spins around, shouting a warning as the ground starts to rumble with the sound of 100 heavy feet. A pack of giant salamanders bursts into the camp, hissing and snapping at anything that looks like a snack. The execution is cancelled as the miners scramble for their lives, realizing the local wildlife is finally tired of the noise. The guards are forced to focus on the lizards, swinging their swords as the camp turns into a three-way battle for survival. Zach stares at the chaos with a flat expression. The universe just handed him a perfect distraction on a silver platter. He observes the warden, noting that she's clearly the one running this whole operation and the biggest threat on the floor. But more importantly, he spots the massive bag of Nexus crystals hanging from her waist. That bag is basically a retirement fund with legs. A dark, greedy smirk spreads across Zach's face. Those salamanders look like they could use a little professional help with their hunt. Below him, a guard is busy trying to chop a lizard's head off, completely unaware that death is literally coming from above. The guard gets slammed by a stray rock, his helmet rattling as the chaos in the mine reaches a fever pitch. Zach stands at the edge of the cliff, looking like the world's most terrifying mountaineer. "Oh yeah," he mutters, "it's time to get rich." He leaps from the ledge, his axe leading the way as he plunges into the middle of the fight.